Two children were born as twins and were told that their mother had fallen into eternal sleep during childbirth. A. Apart from their dad, who visited them sometimes, and the nanny who looked after them in this huge world, there was no one. It was as if they lived in a separate little world. This has been happening for as long as they can remember, and it didn't seem strange to them at all, because in order to understand everything, they were too small. Now someone is addressing Mrs. Brilia and also Mrs. Evelyn, and he wonders where they disappeared to. At this time, one of the little girls turns to her sister. He also invites her to go out, but the brunette tells the girl not to worry, because they are just playing hide and seek. The blonde claims that the nanny is worried, but her sister says that everything is fine. However, when she is about to say something else, the door to the closet opens and the little girls see the worried face of the nanny. The brunette asks if sister sees her, because the nanny always finds them quickly. The woman at this time wonders why they hid there, and she was worried. The blonde apologizes and wants to say something else. Well, the nanny says that she shouldn't. Everything is fine. After all, she was looking for them to tell them something joyful, which made the two little girls look very happy. And the woman claims that they were told that the count would come today, so they need to get ready. After which, the little girls agree and run away hand in hand, and their nanny only sighs. A little while later, the girls are already changing into beautiful outfits, after which someone turns to them, and when the little girls turn around, they see their father. One of the girls immediately runs up to him and hugs him tightly, while her sister stands to the side, after which the two look at the girl, and the father extends his hand for her to come to them. The blonde is delighted by this and immediately runs to her dad. Then they sit down at the table together and eat. She is a little while later, a lady with black hair is training with a sword. The blonde is watching this with delight. And when evening comes, the girls fall asleep together in bed. The count is at this time near the window in his office. Then he hears someone coming in. It turns out to be the nanny, and the count says that he is grateful to her as always. The woman claims that she is happy because she can look after these little angels. And the blonde asks if there were any problems, to which the nanny replies that they are still young. The count asks if she understands that no one should know about this. She answers that she does, but the eldest lady is always trying to get out. Her character is very similar to the character of the count, and Eveline, on the contrary, took after her mother. The count then says that this is how it is. He also claims that people from the palace will come soon, and he still cannot decide which of them to send. After all, his heart is breaking, and the count claims that it would be better to stage a coup there. And if something happens to his daughters, no one and nothing will stop him. The nanny then tells the count that it may not be too late to reveal the truth, but the man replies that it is impossible because she has no idea what scoundrels they are, and will definitely insist that he send them both away, and then war will be impossible to avoid. The nanny claims that he won't always keep it a secret, and the man wonders how he can do this to them, and he also wants them to be together for at least a little while longer. A little while later, the blonde slams his fist on the table and also asks if the palace really doesn't trust him that much. One of the servants tells the count that this can't be and suggests that he calm down. But the man asks if they really want to take away a child who is only 9 years old, to which his interlocutor replies that the count himself understands everything and now the palace is in a state. The blonde interrupts the servant and asks in what state, and is this really a state of mistrust towards him? The servant suggests that the count not to say so, because almost 70% of the kingdom's troops are located there on the Western Front, and the fact that all this is under his authority already shows the trust of the palace. However, the count tells the servant to shut up and stop talking nonsense, because do people who trust him really want to take his daughter hostage? The servant doesn't even know what to answer to this, but then claims that this is an oath that has been observed since the time of their ancient ancestors. And if the count sends his daughter, then no one will doubt his devotion to the palace. The man then cries out that another year, and he will send the child away in a year when he turns 10. The servant is frightened by such a manner of speech and claims that he will pass on his words. And a little while later, the blonde is already in his room and thinking about all this. He realizes that he spent his entire childhood in the palace and suffered bullying and humiliation from the royal family. He endured rigorous tests of powerful signs and took daily vows of loyalty. A little while later, the man walks down the corridor and realizes that of course they are afraid of the Cayennes, who have the largest number of troops in their hands. But at that very moment, someone turns to him, and the Count, with a smile on his face, thinks that if only he could watch these radiant faces a little longer. After a short time, the eldest daughter masters the sword and skillfully performs all the tricks, after which she turns to her father and asks how he likes it. The man replies that the girl is just great and will soon become stronger than her dad, while the brunette replies that this is not true, because he is the most skilled warrior, so how can she become stronger than him? The Count says that if she continues at this pace, she will definitely cope. He also approaches Eveline and asks what book she is reading. The girl replies that she is reading about the history of the palace. The man then realizes that the older girl is brave and takes up the sword, while Eveline is more timid. He also wonders if the girl could live separately from her sister, which surprises her a little, and the man is interested in whether she will be able to confidently follow her path without him and her sister. At that moment, Brilia comes up to them and asks what they are whispering about, after which the blonde turns to his other daughter and asks if she could cope with everything without him. The girl replies that of course she is no longer little and will become the best swordsman in the kingdom of Leon. The last year passed like sand through her fingers, and then the young lady did not understand the reason for their separation. When the girl had to say goodbye to her sister, she could not hold back her tears. One of the girls then thinks what fate would have awaited them if she had not taken up the sword. A short time later, the blonde lady is heading in a carriage, but hears terrible screams outside, after which there are completely painful groans, and the carriage gradually begins to turn red, after which the girl suddenly notices someone opening the door, and the video of the man screaming that it is the head of Smalling, Ew. The young lady asks why he did it, and the man asks for forgiveness from Mrs. Eveline. The girl then asks how he can do this, after which the man takes off his mask, and he claims they had no other choice. Eveline says her father trusted them so much and wonders why they betray him, to which the man replies that when the Count fell unconscious, a lot changed. Well, the blonde only asks to let her go because the Count is probably here now. However, the man interrupts the girl and screams that the Count will not wake up, and now she cannot return alive, because only when the Count's family is exterminated will they be able to live. After which, the young lady becomes desperate, and the man tells them to burn the carriage and throw it off the cliff, and not to leave a trace. At this time, the blonde closes her eyes and remembers her whole life as well as her sister. She also realizes that there is a huge iron wall between the Chopin Empire and the Leon kingdoms, and the masked soldiers protecting her. The Chopin Empire conquered all the countries on the continent. But for over 100 years, she could not conquer the kingdom of Leon, because until then, the kingdom was under the protection of the swordsman, Cayenne. A wall stretching for 200 kilometers was built on top of the soldiers, and everyone dreamed of ending the war. The wall that separated the empire and the kingdoms was called the Wailing Wall. The western front facing the empire was considered a cursed land. At this time, on Mount Hugo, Sestra, one of the workers, stands up straight and says that the weather there is rather gloomy. At this time, someone else turns to the guard and tells him to be quiet and not to chatter too much, and the guard with the tail asks who could come at such a time, to which his interlocutor replies that they say people from the empire are paving the way. The guard with the ponytail asks if he's crazy and if they're doing it across the entire mountain. The guy then asks if she's forgotten, because there have been incidents when they've crossed the border. And the guard with the tail says that they all died at the hands of the commander. But nevertheless, the guy says that they are capable of overcoming such a path. At this time, someone else addresses Pan and Leo, causing the two to become frightened and ask what is going on. After which, this man tells them to rest, to which these two agree with the commander. And the girl comes closer to them and says that she can't sleep, so let them come in. Then she stands near the wall and realizes that she is still filled with anxiety, and even the news about her father did not excite her so much. The brunette understands that she cannot fall asleep, and she cannot cope with this feeling either. The girl stands near the wall all night until the morning, but then she suddenly notices a bird, after which he extends his hand for her to sit down and removes the note from her leg. While looking at it, the girl is overcome with shivers. After all, it says there that the person she was interested in died. The young lady then clutches this paper, after which he takes off his mask and furiously throws it on the floor. For some reason, it breaks, A little while later, the girl is already on one of the trees, at which time her colleagues appear behind her, and they say that they were looking for her. The girl at this time jumps from the tree and begins to examine the tracks. One of her colleagues guesses that about 3 days have passed, and it was definitely a swordsman from the kingdom. The brunette claims that this is the Central Army of the Western Front, and someone from Kayan's squad, after which she goes further and says that she has a request. But her colleagues tell the lady not to say that, and to simply order. The girl claims that she will not come back, and takes off her mask, and also tells Leo that she leaves everything to him. The girl also turns to Pan and asks if he can follow her. Well, the guy says that the mistress only orders. After all, he would go to the ends of the earth with her. At this time, another guy screams for the commander to let him too. But the girl claims that Leo should take care of the squad, because in the future she will definitely need their help. After which, the two get down on one knee and declare that they will do as the mistress commands. The young lady approaches Pan and states that she cannot promise him safety, and also asks if he is sure he agrees. The young man replies that the commander saved his life 4 times, and he is ready to repay her in kind. After which, the girl thanks him and rises from her seat and also looks once again at the cliff where the traces of the carriage wheels remain. At this time, the foreman of the First Legion cries out, "Have they really not found Lady Eveline yet?" The sergeant major of the Second Legion. Then he asks why he doesn't send an army to search. The deputy commander of the Central Army replies that the trail ends in the area of the Baton River, and it looks like the girl was attacked. After which, the foreman furiously asks who dared to draw a sword against Kayan. At this time, the musketeer claims that before leaving the palace, the lady sent a letter, and she wrote that she had found a cure for the count's illness, and he also immediately came to inform them. But then the elder of the Third Legion asks if he really suspects them, to which the guy replies that no, and simply allows for the possibility that someone will benefit more if the count and his daughter are gone. At that very moment, one of the commanders puts a gun to the guy's neck and asks if the puppy really thought of doing this just to blacken their names. The guy at this time looks at the weapon and claims that the palace, as well as influential nobility, all troops of the Western Front that are subordinate to the Kayan family, are part of the kingdom's central army. And this has been the case for over 100 years due to the palace's treaty with the Kayans. The Baron asks if the guy really means that someone from the palace dared to attack Madame Eveline, but the guy replies that he is only trying to understand who will benefit more from this incident, and Viscount Baron will have to prepare for the worst. The man then asks what the musketeer is talking about, and another elder asks if he wants to present troops to the palace, which protects the wall, after which the Baron gets even angrier, but still sits down in his place, and silence falls between the elders, after which the commander-in-chief decides to break it and offers to take command of the troops. However, everyone immediately looks at him with cold glances, and the elder keeps asking him if he really wants it, so that he could stage a coup. The commander-in-chief asks if he can even imagine what will happen to this place. If the palace takes the initiative, Kun claims there is still time and a way. And also, if they can't find the mistress, they should at least find the criminal, because if they want to take over the army and betray Cayenne, they are not obliged to obey them. And if that happens, then war is inevitable. After which, they all fall silent. But at that very moment, someone runs into the room and screams that Mrs. Eveline has returned. The brunette is sitting near the mirror at this time and combing her hair, after which she makes a potion and drinks it. From this potion, the color of the young lady's hair begins to change. At this time, the girl also hears someone knocking on the room and claiming that it is Pan, after which the girl tells him to come in, and the guy does, so after which the young lady asks if he said that he is from Kunta. The young man replies that it is a country that disappeared from the face of the earth 100 years ago, and he feels more comfortable wearing a mask. The young lady then asks what happened with the assignment, to which the guy replies that there are many guards near the count's house, and apparently there is a meeting of commanders inside, after which the guy turns to the lady and asks how she is going to get in there. Well, the young lady just tells him to call her Eveline Cayenne from now on. The guy's a little surprised by this. Well, the young lady passes by him and says that he needs to hurry because it's time to go home. A little while later, the girl gets out of the carriage, and at the same moment, the commanders run up to her shouting to the lady. The young lady looks at them all, and the musketeer asks where she has been, after which the girl also sees one man who is very nervous and understands that it was most likely him. Well, a young lady walks between them all and claims that she needs to rest. And when he leaves, he still glances at that commander, who was behaving strangely. When the girl enters the mansion, the nanny immediately runs up to her, after which he hugs the girl. The young lady, with tears in her eyes, tells the nanny that she has returned and wants to meet her father, after which the woman moves away and screams that, of course, and then they head towards the count's room. The nanny points to the door to this room and says that the lady is there. Well, she also wonders who the person is behind her. The girl then says that she should say hello, because this is Pan, and he will help her. The woman then says that she is pleased to meet you, and her name is Elma. And the young lady asks what her father's condition is now. After this, the nanny just looks away and says that the lady would be better off looking for herself. After which, the girl approaches the room and claims that she is entering. When the young lady approaches her father, she sees that he is in a bad state and wonders if everything will be okay with him. The girl also remembers how her father once asked her if she could cope. The brunette then asked in response whether Evelyn would have to go if she didn't go. But the man only said that if she wanted. But Brilia interrupted him and replied that if she did not answer, her sister was weak, so she would go. Evelyn wanted to object to her, but the brunette told the girl not to worry, because if she went there, she would learn how to handle the ball, and it was unlikely to be so scary there. After which, she also turned to her father and told him to promise that he would protect Evelyn, to which the man replied that he would definitely protect her, and the brunette told him not to forget about her. Now she claims with tears in her eyes that her father did promise, but he couldn't even keep his promise. And she tried her best to survive, and he lies there in such a state, after which the girl claims that she will not forgive anyone, none of those involved. A little while later, she is already sitting and reading the sheets. In one of them, her sister wrote that, in this way, thanks to him, she was able to find a cure, and perhaps it would cure her father. Everyone was against her coming back, but he was on her side until the end, and if he had not been there. At this time, the nanny interrupts the girl from reading and offers her to eat at least a little. Well, the blonde asks when this letter arrived, to which the woman replies that it arrived exactly 20 days ago. The main character asks who else read it, to which the nanny replies that the letter was checked at the palace. And after the letter was delivered, Mr. Musketeer read it and brought it to her. The girl understands that too many people know about this letter, and not only in the palace, but there too. Even on Mount Hugo, his father's loyalty to the royal family is known. At this time, the maid turns to the lady and claims that it is Madame Eveline. She doesn't eat so unceremoniously. She was going to be a princess. She wore them to the strictest etiquette lessons, after which the young lady says yes and thanks the nanny. She takes the knife and fork in her hands, and she also understands that first she needs to become indistinguishable from Eveline. That same evening, the girl sits with letters again, and one of them says that today the prince defended her, and the queen scolded him severely for it, but the prince said that he would always be on her side, and she also received a bouquet of flowers, and the roses that grow in the palace gardens are incredibly beautiful. Well, the prince will probably be scolded again for this. Duke Oberon's daughter came to her again today, and it seems she likes the prince. She was very rude, but the girl does not want to write about it, so let Daddy not be sad. After all, today she was very happy and overflowing with happiness, but for now she won't tell him about it. And a month later, she finally met him because she missed him so much. The girl also wrote that she returned to the palace, even though it was only 1 month once a year, but she was infinitely happy that she could spend time with him. The girl also reads another one of the sheets, in which her sister wrote that now she is no longer a child, and therefore asked to tell her the truth. And she worries a lot, and she also has dreams where her sister is having a very hard time. Now the main character understands that her sister was worried about her, but she was okay. After which, she turns to the nanny and asks if she said that all the letters were checked, to which the woman replies that yes, and that is how it is. Then Brilia, with tears in her eyes, asks how Eveline was doing, to which the woman replies that she was quite happy. The girl then only smiles and thinks a little more about her sister. But a little while later, she suddenly hears someone approaching and realizes that she needs to find some kind of weapon. Then the young lady takes a candle, or thinks that at least this will do. Pan at this time tries to stop this man. Well, at that very moment, he hits the servant with magic, which surprises him, and then he flies back to the door. The man who hit him opens the door at this time and turns to Eveline excitedly. After which, he even approaches her, which only frightens the young lady. But the guy came right up to her. He just hugs her and also claims that he is very glad that she is okay. But the young lady is thinking, what kind of idiot is this and what's going on? The guy at this time turns to Evelyn with tears in his eyes. The girl wonders if this is really the same man, after which he only says that it's so good that everything is okay with her, and he is very happy. Brilia realizes that this is the Crown Prince of Lyon Astel Louis, and Eveline's fiancé. The maid immediately stands between them and apologizes, but claims that it is already very late, and besides, the mistress's clothes are not suitable for meetings. After which, the two are embarrassed. But at that very moment, someone runs into the room and screams to His Highness. The guy then wonders if this is Viscount Baron, and the man only wonders why the prince did not announce his visit. To which the guy replies that it's just Evelyn, and the elder then falls silent. Well then someone once again turns to the gentleman and claims that the crown prince is okay. Well, what are they doing in the mistress's room at such a time? The nanny also tells them to all leave right now, and her mistress is tired and needs to rest. After which the woman closes the door and wishes everyone sweet dreams. She also turns to her mistress and asks if everything is okay with her, and she didn't even think that the prince himself would appear. But the blonde replies that everything is for the best, because since the prince came there is no reason to rush to the palace, and change is needed everywhere. That's why the girl claims that the people who attacked Evelyn are probably confused now. A little while later, the ministers and the crown prince are already gathering, and the musketeer points out the places where Madame Eveline could have been attacked. His Highness watches this sadly, after which everyone asks him who it could have been, and also who dared to attack Evelyn. He asks again who tried to harm the crown princess of the Lyon kingdom. At this time, the musketeer asks His Majesty who, in his opinion, will benefit from this incident, and who will be the happiest if the Caen line ends. The man then wonders if the guy is really trying to blame the royal family now. To which he asks in response how he dares to do such a thing, and he heard that a certain part of the nobility is against his marriage to the lady. After all, everyone knows that many do not want the Western Front to gain more political weight, and no one is hiding this. And he also heard that it was there that there were more people who were against marriage. Water time. One of the elders addresses His Highness, and also states that all the soldiers are under the leadership of Caen, and they are the same part of the kingdom. And the main thing is that the lady returned alive, and they just have to find the criminals and punish them. So maybe he will return with Mrs. Eveline back to the palace. Then the blonde-haired youth asks, did the elder really dare to order him now? To which the baron replies that no, and it is for his own safety. But at that very moment, someone announces that she is not going to return, and it turns out to be the main character. At that moment, His Majesty runs up to the girl and claims that it is dangerous for her to be there. But the young lady replies that she cannot leave, which surprises the guy. And the girl replies that she was attacked by soldiers from the Western Front, and she was attacked by Caen's soldiers. They also burned her palanquin and threw it into the river to destroy the evidence. And these villains are there now. Then the young lady looks at the knight commander and asks how she can leave her father alone and go, after which the prince sighs and suggests that they talk in private. They go into another room, and the prince tells Eveline that he understands her feelings, but he can't leave this dangerous place, leaving her there. The young lady replies that all this directly concerns her, who is the heir of Caen, and she will cope. Well, the guy says that the girl doesn't understand with what feelings he went there, and as soon as he heard the news about her, he immediately went there without closing his eyes once, leaving the courtiers and his father, who were holding him back, not listening to his family or the nobles. He came there with the royal guard, knowing that many people on the Western Front disliked him. And it is clear that she may suspect the royal family, or no, but why doesn't she believe him? And why is she so cold to him? The girl at this time thinks whether he really loved Evelyn, and what should she do now? After which she turns to His Highness and asserts that she has no doubt about him, so, well, the guy says that even when they are alone, she doesn't want to call him by his name, and the guy asks what the reason is. And also, does he really think that she was attacked by someone from the royal family, and that is why he is her supporter? But at home, she seems completely different. At this time, the girl thinks that there is no point in wasting time and that she must go straight ahead. So she turns to His Highness and tells him to go first because she still has business there, and she asks him about it. The guy then bites his lip and clenches his fists, and also wonders if it is really necessary to be so stubborn. The young man also says that news about her has already reached the palace, and they will insist that this matter was planned by the Western Front. Both sides want to end their union. The girl at this time understands that everything is worse than she expected, and the young man with blonde hair claims that he will not be able to drag out time for more than a month, and if she does not return, then the nobles will start looking for a new bride for him, and there will be complete chaos. And the prince asks if she understands this, after which the girl just thanks him, and the guy hands her some kind of stone. The young lady then asks what this prince is saying that she is at it again, and he suggests taking it quickly because this is the last brooch of protection that was in the palace. The young lady then takes this brooch in her hands and wonders if this is a magical artifact, and the prince claims that he went, and as soon as he sorts out the affairs in the palace, he will return for her himself. The young lady left alone in the room wonders why the prince is giving this artifact to Eveline. A little while later, the girl asks Pan if he knows about this thing, because the prince said that it is a brooch of protection. The guy looking at this brooch claims that it is clearly a magical artifact, and the powers contained within it are very great. He also wonders if this means that the prince is good at magic. After all, his skills were at a high level, and he pushed him away with his abilities. The main character then asks if his powers were so incredible, to which the guy replies, yes, after which the young lady turns to Pan again and asks if he can inspect the area again, where her little sister was attacked as well as the Baton River, because her sister probably had the same brooch. And the blonde says that suddenly she might be alive, after which the guy replies that yes, and he understood. At this time, one man approaches the crystal ball and then places his hand on it, and a silhouette of someone appears in the air. This guy claims that Mrs. Eveline has returned alive and asks what's the matter. The knight commander apologizes, but his interlocutor claims that he will have to get rid of her quickly before the prince returns. The blonde man claims that he will not step on the same rake twice, after which the silhouette from the ball claims that, of course, because he is obliged to fulfill this mission, and they will be able to survive only if their kind is exterminated. To which the man agrees, and when the ball stops glowing, he sighs, but then gathers his resolve to plunge this girl into eternal sleep. A little while later, the servant brings something to the main character, but asks why she needs it, and does she really think that it is dangerous there too? The girl replies that it is just in case, and that he should not worry, and also steps. The gentleman says that if the lady is worried, then maybe it's worth calling Leo, to which the girl replies that no, and it's not time yet, because for now, this sword is quite enough for her. The guy claims that he listens, and the way to the river as well as the inspection of the scene of the incident can take a month. The young lady claims that she has hopes for him, and the guy only asks her to trust him, and then leaves. The girl is left alone and looks at the mask lying next to her. The next day, the girl is already sitting at the morning table, but at the same moment, the nanny tells the lady that the piece of meat should be even smaller, and she must also chew without making a sound, and try to keep her throat from moving when she swallows. After all, although this is forgivable, while she is there in a month, her behavior will be immediately noticed in the palace. At the same moment, someone knocks on the door and says that it is Smalling, and that he also wants to meet with the lady. The young lady is a little tense about this, and her nanny insists that the mistress is eating, so let him wait outside. A little while later, the girl is already sitting in front of this man, and he bows. He also claims that he is glad to meet Mrs. Eveline. He would like to talk to her alone, and the man asks if she could ask the extra people to leave, to which the girl replies, of course, and he asks the nanny if she will wait outside, after which the woman comes out, and the commander of the knights asks the lady if she knows who he is. The girl is silent for a while after that, but then with a smile on his face, he claims that he recently introduced himself and said that he is the deputy commander of the Central Army. The man claims that the lady speaks as if she is hearing this name for the first time, and that he has always been responsible for her safety. The girl then asks if it really seemed that way to him, since she still hasn't recovered from the shock of what happened, and she also asks why he wanted to see her. But the man then only takes the sword out of its sheath and swings it, but stops near the young lady's throat. And she also screams what a nasty thing she is, and let her admit who she is. The girl then only smiles, and claims that she is Eveline Cayenne, and also the crown prince's fiancée, and the heiress of the Cayenne family. But the man claims that Togo cannot be, after which the girl asks why and whether it is because he plunged her into eternal sleep. The musketeer at this time sits at his desk and reads a paper in which it is written that Brill, who was the commander of the ranger squad, ran away, and her place was immediately taken by Leo. At this moment, someone bursts into the musketeer's room and screams at him, "Khan!" then asks in surprise if it is Deputy Smalling, and he wonders what brought him there. But he just runs up to his desk and screams that Madame Eveline was acting strangely, and that he had been around her the longest, and also knew her well. And this girl is not Mrs. Eveline the musketeer, then asks if you are ready to replace you and take responsibility for your words, and also whether he understands how serious this statement is, after which the musketeer only sighs. And he says that first the man should tell him what he knows, after which the deputy doesn't even know how to explain everything. But he just turns around and claims that, in general, he warned them, so let them not regret it later. He also understands that things cannot continue like this, and that he himself will reveal her identity. At this time, the musketeer looks at the paper he was reading and realizes that there is something wrong there. A little while later, someone enters the young lady's room, and the girl only claims that in the vicinity of Mount Hugo, the traces of Commander Brill ended, and the location is unknown, after which the girl asks what the man is doing there at such a time, and also if he wants to talk, after which the deputy claims that the girl is even worse than he thought. To which the young lady replies that as a child, she often heard that he was very similar to her father. But the deputy commander of the Knights asks what kind of nonsense this is, because the Count has a completely opposite character. He also claims that if the girl answers all his questions correctly, he will let her live. But the young lady is just wondering, how about asking each other one question? After which the man asks if she is afraid of falling into eternal sleep. The girl replies, why should she be afraid? After all, he once already tried to put her into eternal sleep. While the man claims that she knows nothing and the lady should have plunged into eternal sleep and not give a damn about what is standing, whether she is or not. After all, he's only interested in whether there's someone else behind her. And he also doesn't know why she's so fearless, but she clearly underestimated him. The girl then asks if it turns out that he was lying when he said that he would leave her alive. And after all, Eveline also fell into eternal sleep at his hands. The man only gets angry about this, after which he strikes with a sword, but the young lady reflects it, after which, with a smile on his face, he claims that she did say that he wouldn't be able to defeat her that easily. The deputy commander screams out who the hell she is and deals many more blows. But all these blows pass by, and the girl only approaches him, after which the man asks how this is even possible. Well, the main character turns to Smalling and claims that they say he is the best swordsman after the Count, and also whether the Count personally taught him everything, after which the girl pushes this man away, and he wonders who she is anyway. But the young lady, with a smile on her face, asks if even now this is all he is interested in, after which he delivers one well-aimed blow to the man's hand, and he cries out in pain because his limb is already lying on the ground. The girl then claims that from now on, he will only tell the truth, and asks why Eveline had to go into eternal sleep, and also the man is still alive only because she needs the truth. The next morning, a musketeer and one of the elders run into the young lady's room. They immediately cry out to the lady and ask what happened. The girl then turns to the Viscount, and she excitedly claims that this man tried to attack her yesterday. The elder then turns to the deputy and asks if this is true, and the young lady, looking at him, says that in general, if it weren't for her security, it could have ended very badly, after which the two run up to the deputy, and they ask what it is. Musketeer even claims that he is in shock, because it is the art of Kaltara. They are one of the 11 lost kingdoms, and are said to have a special talent for torture and putting people into eternal sleep. He also wonders if there was such a person in the ladies' circle, to which the musketeer replies that he doesn't know, and anything is possible. The elder turns to Smalling and asks why he did this. Well, the musketeer replies that they will hardly be able to find out. He understands that when a person is tortured by someone from Kaltara, he can say that he loses his own soul. At this point, the deputy seems to be in a trance and says that the girl is not her. At this point, the main character leaves the room, and he understands that it was someone from the middle nobility. Well, let him just wait, because she will definitely come for him. A little while later, the young lady finds herself in her father's room. Then the nanny also approaches her and claims that the musketeer wants to talk to her. But the girl replies that not now, because she wants to be alone, to which the nanny agrees and asserts that she will convey this. The girl looks at her weakened father and feels disgusting. She remembers sitting in a carriage with her first mask and looking at it. After which she turned to her father and asked if she would now be officially trained in the art of the sword, and also if Evelyn would be okay, to which the man replied that the girl should not worry about her and stroked his daughter on the head, after which he told her to be sure to remember what he was about to tell her, and if something suddenly happened to him, then let her think about blue roses. The young lady then asked if there were such people, and the man replied that she was smart, and the time would come when she would understand everything, so the girl should just not forget about it. To which the young lady replied that yes, she would never forget about these blue roses. But now she still wonders what these blue roses are, and what her dad was talking about. After all, she had never heard of their existence, and it was not a family emblem, and they certainly did not grow in any garden. The girl thinks that maybe her father wanted to tell about some secret place, or some person, and now the young lady reaches out her hand to her father and asks him if the people who put her sister into eternal sleep are still in the kingdom. And also, can she do as she sees fit? The girl also understands that her father's body is fine, but it is not poison, and he is just sleeping. After which she rises from her seat and claims that she will return. After which the young lady approaches the musketeer and asks how long he has been waiting. To which the man asks a question in response, and asks if she wants to tell him something, and he also talks about smalling the young lady, then asks what he wants to hear from her. To which the guy replies that the deputy was subjected to cruel torture, and every bone in his hand was cut off, and then his arms and legs were cut off entirely. But the girl only screams for him to stop, and claims that this man tried to put her into eternal sleep yesterday, which is why he was captured. And do they really want to say that it was not necessary to do this? The musketeer only remains silent after this, but then claims that the lady is not at all the same as before. The girl claims that her father has been unconscious for more than 6 months, and that they tried to put her into eternal sleep twice, so she asks if he really doesn't understand why she has changed. The musketeer then claims that he has understood the lady, and so that she will not be in any danger, he will introduce the most to her. But the girl replies that no, and one bodyguard is enough for her, because she can't trust anyone. After which, Khan says that he understands and thanks the lady for taking the time to talk to him. At this time, the girl thinks whether she can trust him, after which she finally turns to the musketeer and asks if her father loved roses. The man then claims that he did not talk to the count about personal matters, and her lady replies that it is understandable, and also says how deserted it is there. The musketeer then claims that the house is run by a nanny, and that is enough, and he is also there temporarily. The girl then wonders if he's there until her father wakes up, or until he's replaced, to which the guy replies that he doesn't know, but in any of these scenarios, he will immediately return to the army, and he asks if the lady has any more questions. The girl then says that she will soon have to return to the palace, and she leaves her father in his care. After which, the musketeer leaves, and the girl remembers how yesterday the deputy commander screamed for her to better immerse him in eternal sleep. And he only knows that it is the middle nobility and those who put on the devil's masks to stop the war. But if everything continues like this, then soon a war with the Empire will begin. At this time, Pon dives into the water, after which he sees a carriage lying on the bottom. He reaches out his hand to the door and opens it. A little while later, he already emerges and lies down on the shore. The guy understands that he has made sure of it, that there is no inanimate body, and he wonders whether to tell him about it. His Highness at this time is heading in a carriage. At this time, someone turns to him and states that he hopes His Highness is comfortable. The man then replies that he did not know that Baron Argan would be accompanying him, while his interlocutor only claims with a smile on his face that he is simply following the instructions of the aristocratic council. The prince wonders if this is the desire of the Marquis Berthaud, to which the Baron replies that no, and they wanted to check how the Western troops patrol. His Highness then asks if they should worry that he might seize the Western troops, to which his interlocutor smiles and asks the prince not to speak like that. Well, the man claims that there is no need to beat around the bush, because the Count's condition is as bad as it can be, and that's why everyone is reaching out to Western troops. The Baron then asks how a nobleman like him can participate in such things, but there are rumors that the Empire may invade the kingdom again. After which, the prince claims that this is nonsense, and that the Empire is currently in turmoil over the choice of an heir. And does he really think that they care about them? The Baron claims that this is what he is talking about, because if the first prince is elected, he will immediately attack them, because as we know, he is very aggressive. His Majesty then asks if these rumors are really why the boy is so restless. He also claims that the wall will never go because it has been standing for 100 years, and there shouldn't be any problems. After which, the Baron doesn't even know what to say. The main character is in her room at this time and meditates. She imagines herself handling a sword, and then begins to increase her energy. A little while later, she is already finishing her training and notices someone coming. At this time, Pan congratulates the lady and claims that she has almost reached the level of a master. But the girl only says that he needs to train harder and asks what's going on with the assignment. To which the guy replies that he found a burnt palanquin in the water, but it was empty. The guy also claims that this fact does not inspire hope, and there are no villages nearby. The young lady then just turns around and says that enough is enough. Too much time has already passed. Pan then says that while on a mission, he saw the palace troops, and they were due to arrive in 3 days, so he hurried back. The young lady claims that he did the right thing, and now it's time for her to go back. And if he doesn't want to go with her, he can return to the army. The guy then says that the lady shouldn't make him repeat himself because he still has to serve and serve to repay for saving his life, after which the girl thanks him. And the guy with a smile on his face claims that he looks at her and thinks that now you can't tell that the lady was called a panther on Mount Hugo. The young lady replies that she knows that she is bothering him greatly, but wants him to know what else, after which the young man states that he is listening. And the girl says that the central nobility, and especially the nobles from the upper class, she needs information about them, and about the actions of the empire, as well as how the election of the heir is going, the likelihood of their attack on them, and the rest. Pan claims that you can easily learn about the empire from the rats, after which the girl asks why it closed, and the guy wonders if the commander doesn't know that these are smugglers who made a hole in the wall and are selling all sorts of things. The girl then asks if this is possible, and the guy replies that the wall was built 100 years ago, and it would be stranger if there was no hole. Evelyn then says that she is counting on him, and the guy with a smile on his face says that yes, and he will also make it before the soldiers arrive. Then they say goodbye, and the girl takes her sword in her hands again and begins training. His Highness is still heading in the carriage at this time. At this time, smugglers pass through a hole in the wall, and one of them claims that if you go down, then after 10 kilometers there will be a village and the estate of Count Cayenne. And one of them claims that people from the Empire haven't been there for a long time. The next day, Pan is already wandering around the village looking for these people, after which he goes into a diner and sees them and comes closer. After which, one of them asks what his business is and whether he really deserted. Pan replies that he did not run away and that he is interested in something. He also puts some coins on the table and states that, for example, they can tell him news from the Empire. A little while later, he is already leaving this eatery, but then he sees the prince's carriage heading towards him, after which he also sees another guy on the other side. And he just covers his face. The main character is in her room at this time, and the nanny helps her comb her hair. She also says how beautiful her mistress is, and the girl wonders if she really thinks so. After all, she even feels awkward somehow. The woman then almost cries and claims that she is being sent to the palace. It's very hard. Well, the girl says that the nanny shouldn't worry because she's not going to the palace as Eveline's hostage, and she is Cayenne Brilia, and she is also going there to avenge her sister. The nanny is still worried after that and wants to say something else to the lady, but at that moment, someone enters the room, and he claims that he has come. The girl then turns to the nanny and asks if she can leave them alone, to which the woman agrees and states that she will bring something to drink. After the nanny leaves the room, the young lady turns to her servant and asks him if he knew anything. The guy at this time only looks at his mistress, and the girl asks what is going on. After which he, a little embarrassed, replies that nothing, and that she is simply very beautiful. The young lady then slams her hand on the table and asks if he has completely lost his fear, and the guy apologizes. He claims that he learned something interesting, and the battle for the throne was over 6 months ago. The first prince took the throne, and the second was sent into exile for life. The main character then asks if he is talking about the first prince, to which the guy replies that yes, and it is the one that is very similar to its predecessor. The young lady then says that it is clear, and it turns out that a war may soon begin. The guy claims that they are urgently mobilizing troops and preparing ammunition, and he also heard that many spies have infiltrated the country through a hole in the wall. The young lady then takes the papers and also claims that all this is happening while the father is unconscious. A little while later, the prince arrives at the estate, and the girl claims that she was waiting for His Highness and also welcomes him to the palace. The guy then tells Eveline that he missed her very much and asks if she is okay, to which the girl replies that she is, and His Highness asserts that he will never leave her again and will never put her in danger. The young lady smiles tensely at this point and says yes. The prince turns to the elder and the musketeer. He also claims that the royal guard will regain their strength, and in 3 days they will set off on their journey, to which they agree. The brunette is sitting near one of the trees at this time, but then someone lands near him, and he says that the shadow number 8 greets him. The brunette tells him to raise his head, and the guy does just that, after which his interlocutor claims that he has a very beautiful pilot for a spy, and asks where he is from and what his name is. Shadow number 8 claims to be the 5th son of Baron Tazen, and was a soldier in the 3rd Stick of the Eastern Army. The brunette then asks how long ago he came there, to which the guy replies that it's already been 12 years, and his interlocutor claims that he must have had a hard time, so let him expect a big reward for him and his family. The guy tells His Highness that it is an honor for him, after which the guy claims that he needs to meet with Count Cayenne as soon as possible, and asks if this is possible. But Shadow number 8 cries out to His Highness that the Count has been unconscious for 6 months, and the man then claims that he only needs to make sure that he can enter the estate safely and quickly, which makes Shadow number 8 surprised, but still claims that it will be done. At this time, the young lady goes with the prince, and he asks if everything is okay. The girl replies that thanks to his care, she felt calm, and the prince asks how the Count feels, and also didn't the medicine help? The young lady then remembers how her sister wrote that, thanks to him, she somehow managed to get that medicine, and maybe it will help her father. Well, now the young lady claims that the medicine he got for her was lost when she was attacked, and the girl also apologizes for the request, but asks if he could get it again. The prince claims that she knows how strict the teacher is, and the girl wonders if the prince really had a teacher. The guy then claims that even if he agrees, it will take at least a year to collect the ingredients, after which the young lady asks His Highness to try to do it anyway. Well, the guy asks what she is talking about, and that she shouldn't ask him since he was going to do it anyway, because the Count is not only her father, but also the sword of their kingdom, so he has to do it. The young lady then thanks His Highness with a smile on her face, and he smiles and also offers to meet the teacher together when they return, because he wants to personally choose the wedding date for them, and McFadden Rock wants to be the leader, and not a single noble family will dare to object. The young lady then wonders if this is really a great wizard, and if he is still alive. His Highness at this time turns to the young lady and asks if she is not happy, to which the girl replies that she is happy, and it is just that her father's condition is grave, so how can she smile calmly? But the prince claims that she wanted this herself, and if the wedding takes place soon, then Marquis Berthaud will take over the local troops. The main character then wonders if this is the one Smalling was talking about, and the prince cries out that the kingdom will come to an end if the Marquis takes over the Western Front. Therefore, it is necessary to have a wedding as soon as possible. The girl then thinks whether she can trust this man, and perhaps with his help, Evelyn tried to somehow save their family. But then the young lady only turns to His Highness and asks him to let her rest today, to which he agrees, and asks him to forgive her, and also states that she must have had a hard time, so he apologizes for starting to put pressure on her. The girl then bows and tells His Highness that it is nothing to worry about, after which he leaves. A little while later, Pan, already in shock, asks if she is talking about McFadden Rock. Well, the girl replies that yes, and the guy asks if this is possible, because if she is talking about that same McFadden, he is the one who erected the iron wall, to which the girl replies, "What exactly?" And Pan asks how old he is, and he was already not young then, so he wonders if he is really 200 years old, or if all wizards live that long. The girl claims that it is unlikely that the prince would lie to her about this. And by the way, this wizard made a medicine for her father and passed it on through Evelyn. And also, someone attacked to stop her. The servant states that this is very likely, and also hands the tea to his mistress. The girl then says that the main suspect at the moment is Marquis Berthaud, and Pawn claims that if it is him, it will be very difficult. The girl then asks if he has found out about the Marquis, to which the guy replies that not a single thing is already known about him. And also, the commander was immersed only in her training and does not know about him. Well, he is very popular among the soldiers here, and every season he finances the army. He comes from the Zirom kingdom, which the empire took over 100 years ago. And the Marquis is very rich and is also known to have pure royal blood, so he is confident that even the royal family is not as rich as him. The girl then asks if he is talking about the kingdom of Zirom, to which the guy replies that it is a kingdom, which they called the Land of Gold, and all the people were bathed in luxury. They even changed their last names to the word golden. Although this led to the rapid collapse of the kingdom, the girl then asks why such a person needed the Western Front, to which her servant replies that he does not know, and maybe he wants to take revenge on the empire. And also all the smuggling organizations are connected with Marquis Berthaud. The young lady then thinks for a moment, and the guy says that if she wants, then before she leaves, he will try to find out more, after which the girl thanks him. And the guy claims that it is not worth it, and also turns to the commander. After which he asks, is it true that she is going to marry the prince? He also laughs at the fact that the commander of their marriage is in the same sentence, and also says how poor this prince is. Well, then he feels the terrifying aura of the commander, who claims that they haven't trained together for a long time, and it's worth looking at his progress. The young man is only surprised after this, and also tells the commander to calm down because he was wrong. But the girl screams that it is too late. A little while later, one of the shadows tells His Majesty to follow the man who is near the door, after which he only nods and the prince approaches him. The servant then states that he must go to that room, and the man thanks him and also states that he can go, and after which the servant thanks him for the reward. The guy then enters the room and sees the count, who is not in very good condition. But at that very moment, someone from behind asks what's going on and why there's no one there. After all, who was supposed to be on guard today? Well, at that very moment, the girl sees someone else in the room and is shocked. She looks at this guy and thinks, what is he doing there? And he is a knight from the empire. So the girl wonders if he really crossed the mountain and stepped onto the lands of the kingdom. But she will never forget him, because it was against him that she first drew her sword. The guy at this time claims that he is a wandering herbalist named Pan. He also heard about the count's condition from Commandeer Khan and came to see him. The young lady then wonders if he is a wandering herbalist and realizes that she needs to pull herself together. At this point, the guy replies that everything is so, but he understands that he was told that it should work, so he serves with this girl. The young lady at this time understands that she must find out for what purpose he is there, and also wonder if the guy wants to say that he is a herbalist and came there to fly out her father. The young man replies that yes, indeed, it is so. But Evelyn claims that the best royal doctors could not cure him. Yes, he who is an unknown herbalist can do it, and besides, he went there without her permission with the help of some servant. The girl also understands that this guy hid his sword, and he only claims that this is not entirely true. After all, he wanted to see if he had any skin diseases. The girl then asks if that is true, but he claims that it is too late and suggests that he examine her father tomorrow. The young lady understands that he is very strong and that she must not let her guard down until she knows his goals, after which she claims that she will call a servant to take him there and asks if the herbalist will wait a little, to which he replies that of course. After which, the young lady closes the door and claims that she will come soon. But as soon as she leaves the room, then she immediately starts running and understands that anything will do for her because she needs to carry at least some things so that she could fight this guy. The prince is wondering if the count's daughter can handle a ball, and that could be a problem. After which he also turns to the count and states that he will soon return to fulfill the promise he made. At this time, the main character sees her servant, and he, a little surprised, turns to the commander and asks if she didn't want to see the count. Well, the girl just screams for him to give her his sword, after which the guy immediately hands her his dagger. And the girl, taking it in her hands, tells the guy to quickly follow her, but when she runs into the room, he sees that there is no one there anymore, after which he immediately turns to his father, and stretching out her hand to him, she wonders if he has already been attacked. However, then the girl understands that he is okay, and thinks that, thank God, nothing happened to him. And fortunately, she was not late, but the girl still wonders for what purpose the Imperial Knight came there. The next day, Pan turns to his mistress and claims that this man is nowhere to be seen. Well, he still wonders if it was really the one she thought of. The young lady then asks how she can forget his face. Well, the servant replies that yes, and he really was very cool, because it was the first time the commander had lost to someone in a sword fight. The girl then asks who he is, what kind of thing he is, who crossed the mountain, which is practically impossible for an ordinary person, and now appeared there. Pan claims that it turned out that the servant knew nothing, and suspicion fell on a certain Bill who brought the herbalist. The main character then asks who this Bill is, to which the guy replies that he is so ordinary that this is his oddity. The guy also asks if the lady thinks so too, but the girl answers, "Is it normal to leave your father and go to the palace at such a moment?" Pan claims that the commander's problem is that she is constantly trying to figure everything out on her own, and maybe she should trust the musketeer, because they say that the count trusted him very much. Or she can ask the prince because he is McFadden Roke's student and a battle mage, so maybe he will find some way to protect him. The girl thinks about it after this, but still says that, okay, she understood him, so let the guy find out about Bill, and if the Empress suddenly meets him, then let him not catch his eye. After which Pan says that of course he is a strong opponent, even for the commander, so he shouldn't even try. The girl claims that it was 6 months ago, and now she can easily defeat him, but the guy just asks if she will do it in such an outfit, and if she should even fight with anyone. After all, what will happen if her identity is revealed? And sometimes even the commander acts and does not think that she can be revealed. At this time, the Prince of the Empire enters the room and asks one of the shadows whether the Count's daughter studied the art of the sword. Shadow then asks if he is talking about Mrs. Eveline, and if so, as far as he knows, she did not do this. The man then asks if this is true, and the servant replies that her life was in danger due to 2 attempts. The prince then asks who did them, too, which he does not answer, that many people are against the wedding of Madame Eveline and the prince. Well, as soon as they get married, the Western Front will automatically pass into the hands of Madame Eveline, and the prince will naturally begin to control the troops. The guy then asks if that's true, and the shadow claims that he is sorry to report this, but due to the disclosure of his identity, he will have to return to his homeland, and another shadow will soon come to help him. But His Majesty replies that no, and he will manage alone, and will also finish his business in a couple of days. And the shadow tried his best, after which he thanks him, and then he asks to be allowed to take his leave, and then leaves. The prince is then left alone, and he also remembers that girl and understands that he has definitely seen her somewhere. At this time, the main character says goodbye to the nanny and the rest of the servants, and also claims that she will return, after which the woman tells her to be careful, to which the young lady agrees, and also tells the nanny not to worry so much. After all, nothing will happen to her. The girl also looks at the musketeer and remembers how they sat at the table last night. The man wondered why the girl had called him at such a time, to which he replied that she would have to leave this place tomorrow. The musketeer then said that yes, he had heard about it, but he was interested in what she wanted to talk to him about. The girl replied that an unknown man had recently entered her father's room, and she asked him if he knew anything about it. The musketeer replied that the lady was worrying too much. After all, he was an ordinary herbalist. But then the main character thought about how to explain to her that he was not a herbalist. Can then asked the girl not to worry about the Count's safety. Well, the young lady asked what her father meant to him, and what kind of person is Count Cayenne for a musketeer. The guy then only turned to Madame Eveline and claimed that people serve only one master. Now, the young lady hopes that the master he serves is her father, after which the musketeer only bows, and the young lady also says goodbye to them, and then heads to the carriage. When the girl does this, Pan tells her not to worry about the Count, because he will protect him until Leo comes. And soon he will catch up with them. The young lady says that it is good, and then she goes, after which she enters the carriage and sets off on her way. Opposite her sits a worried Her Majesty, And he also claims that everything will be fine with the Count, because he will try to return back as soon as possible. He also asks if there are any other thoughts that are bothering her that he doesn't know about. And the young lady wonders if she can trust the man whom Evelyn trusted, after which it finally tells His Highness that, of course not. And the guy says that she is speaking in that tone again. And should he still be angry with him after the girl says no, and asks what he is talking about, and also thinks how she should talk to him then? The prince claims that no matter how close they are, he feels as if she is very far away from him, and now he will not leave her alone. At this time, in one of the forests, the prince of the empire sits. He also recalls how he told him that the lady had been sent to the palace as a hostage in early childhood and had been forcibly betrothed. He remembers how he once ran with a man, and he shouted to His Highness that he needed to speed up. The guy then screamed, asking where they were running and whether he even knew where they were heading, to which the man replied that they would not overcome the iron walls and that he would only be safe if he left the empire. After all, this is the only place where other princes cannot reach. Now the guy is just silent. Much time later, he already finds himself behind one of the guards or enters the Count's room. He then notices someone else is outside the door and claims he has no plans to harm the Count. The young lady's servant is wondering how he knew he was there, and he didn't even expect him to burst in so suddenly. At this time, the prince once again repeats that his presence does not threaten the life of the Count, and he wanted to meet him for personal reasons. After this, Pan just swallows and asks who this guy even is, after which the young man claims that he is Chopin de Chopin, that is the third prince of the empire. Pan only tenses up and wonders if this is really the man who became the seventh master of the empire. The guy claims that he doesn't want to make a noise, so let the servant not draw his sword. The young man with gray hair is surprised by this and thinks that the prince has figured him out. It's not surprising that even the commander had a hard time defeating him, but he still doesn't understand why this guy is there. The prince at this time claims that he asked him to remove the sword, while the favor then claims that he is the prince of the empire. It doesn't mean that he can give orders, because the Lian kingdom is located there, and he came to fulfill the promise given to the Count, and also it will not harm them in any way. After which, the servant wonders if the prince of the empire really made a promise to the Count, and he doesn't even understand what's going on there. And he also wonders if he would have believed some unknown person who broke into someone else's house late at night. The new man then jumps up from his seat and says what a fool the servant is, and why he thinks he came to the Count, who has been unconscious for 6 months now, and is this really to attack him? At this time, the gentleman is thinking which of the two is the fool. Although if you think about it, the prince is partly right, after which the guy claims that he is always so stupid, and maybe then he will talk to smart people from the army, because he will wake everyone up if he screams. And what will he do then? Even if he is a master, he is unlikely to defeat an entire army on his own. The prince at this time only asserts that he came to wake up the Count, and this is his promise given to him. The main character is in a tent at this time and asks if royal families always have such luxurious camps, and how wonderful it is she couldn't even dream of this on Mount Hugo. At this time, someone comes up to the tent and asks if everything is okay with her. The girl is a little scared by this and wonders if the prince really came at such a time. Well, she still answers His Highness that everything is wonderful, and the guy asks if she wants him to stay nearby. The girl then asks what he is talking about, and the prince asks if she remembers how she was afraid at night and sat down to be together, to which the young lady replies that it is not worth it and she can sleep alone. The guy then says that it is okay, and let her wait until tomorrow. After all, tomorrow they will arrive in a small town, and there she will be able to have a good rest, after which the guy turns around and heads towards his tent. At this time, the deputy captain of the knights is in prison. He still can't come to his senses, but now that man from the crystal ball is standing in front of him. He says what a pathetic moron this guy is, after which he extends his hand, and he begins to pull memories out of the deputy's head. And he also understands that the Count must have hidden someone. The man also says that at least in the end, the deputy was of some use, and there is nothing else holding him there, so he leaves. The next morning, the main character is already back in the carriage, and there she talks with the prince. At this time, some man comes to the county, after which someone turns to him and tells him to take off his mask, otherwise he will be accused of desertion. It turns out to be Pan, and the man taking off his mask asks if it wasn't he who called him, begging him to help. The young lady's servant merely motions for the boy to be quiet, and then tells him to follow him quietly. And when they enter one of the rooms, the guy sees how they are trying to heal the count. Pan claims that this is the third prince of the empire, whose name is Chopin de Chopin, and this has been going on for the second day. The young lady is already eating a little while later, and the prince claims that he asked her to cook her favorite dishes, to which the girl thanks him. The count at this time begins to react to all this treatment, but within a minute he falls again. The prince grabs him and the two servants are just surprised. One of them then asks what happened and the count hasn't woken up yet. But the prince claims that there is an unknown person there. Pan says that it is his comrade whom he trusts. Chopin then claims that he needs to meet the count's daughter, and he says her name, and also it seems her name is Brilia. The main character is on the bed at this time, and he thinks that Evelyn lived in luxury, but it seems the prince suspected something. However, the girl still understands that she is also Cayenne, so she doesn't care. At this time, the girl also hears someone outside asking who this person is, to which he replies that he is the mistress's personal guard, and the girl says that he should be allowed to enter. And when he enters the room, the young lady greets him and claims that he came earlier than she thought. Well, then the girl suddenly falls silent because she sees the third prince in front of her. The gentleman claims that this gentleman wanted to meet her, and a little while later, the girl asks if he wants to tell who is the third prince of the empire and made a promise to her father. The guy replies that he understands her, but he can't break the promise he gave to the count. He also looks around and thinks how luxurious everything is there. The girl at this time claims that he said that he would help her father wake up and asks if he can tell her everything in more detail, after which the young man claims that, to be honest, he was also confused, because at the beginning, he thought that this matter is very simple, but everything did not go according to plan, and it was just a promise with the count that as soon as rumors reached him that he was unconscious, he had to immediately come to him. The girl then asks what he is talking about and why he and her father agreed on this. But the prince only wonders if she really wants to know more about his past with the count, because it is a very long story. The girl then only looks at him coldly, and the prince claims that he tried his best to keep his promise, because he had once saved his life. And as soon as the rumors reached him, he crossed Mount Hugo, as he did not have time for the detailed interrogation that is conducted for smugglers at the Iron Wall. The main character is surprised after this, and the guy claims that he didn't think that someone was guarding the mountains there too. There were very strong opponents there, and because of this, he was very late there. The main character then asks if her father can really wake up, and what is his current state? To which the prince replies that the count himself drove himself into a coma by closing the source of his mana, and he helps to open this source back. The girl then asks in shock why her father did this, to which the prince replies that he does not know, and his promise was that only a person of master level I would help him with this. Well, the girl then asks why he still hasn't woken up, and the guy wonders if she has already switched to informal speech. Evelyn then asks if it is important now, and let him better answer the question, after which the guy claims that for 2 days he tried to break through the path to restoring his mana and was able to communicate with him, and he was still worried about his daughters. When he was unconscious, they tried to attack him, but he doesn't remember exactly what happened. The main character then asks what he is talking about now, and he was talking to his father. But the guy says that there is no need to be angry with him, and the main thing is that he kept his promise, and also came there at the request of the count. Eveline asks what he is talking about, after which the prince replies that the count asked him to be sure to convey these words to her. And then he says them, after which the girl is shocked. He just said not to believe so that Brilia would not believe anyone, after which the guy turns around and says that it's time for him to go, because he has completed his mission. And the main character screams for him to wait and also wonders if it turns out that he can only talk to her father. The prince nods after this, and the girl claims that she has a lot of things she wants to ask and cannot just let him go. But Chopin asks if she doesn't understand what it's like for him to be there, and he can say he is in the very heart of the enemy, after which the girl says that yes, and she is grateful to him. Well, she says that he should at least tell her how to talk to her father, after which the guy says that she should achieve the level of a master, because if she is not able to match the level of a count, then she should not even dream of it. The girl then claims that it won't be that easy, and the guy asks what she wants from him. Because does he really need to become an intermediary between the count and her? or is she asking him for training? The girl remains silent after this, and the guy insists that he will go because it took more time than he expected. But the main character immediately grabs his hand and screams at him not to leave, and also waited a little longer. Chopin then claims that it was starting to get on his nerves, after which he pulls his hand away and claims that he was in debt to the Count, not to her. But the girl then asks if he knows the meaning of blue roses, after which the guy stops, and he claims that this is overcoming the impossible and unwavering love. The young lady then tells him not to leave and asks him to help her a little while ago when the boy was still little. Then his mother sang to the tattoo on his back. It hurt the young man, but the woman told the baby to be patient a little longer, to which he agreed. And she also claimed that he should not forget that in his veins flows the blood of the rulers of Duranca, and Chopin, who is a blue shark, is the guardian of the kingdom of Duranca, and they will never see the blue rose that blooms only in this kingdom again. The brave people fought to the end, but everyone became slaves of the empire, so the guy should not forget that he is the descendant of the noblest dynasty, and all who know about the blue rose are their brothers. Now he also remembers the face of the young lady who told him not to leave and asked him to help her. But he understands that he must not waste time in such and such a place. At this time, Pan turns to the commander, and he asks if everything is okay with her. The girl then answers that no, and she is not okay. The guy wonders if she will let him go, to which the young lady replies that nothing can be done, and he came to keep the promise he made to his father. But the guy then claims that the prince is a big shot, and even if he is a master, then if the whole army attacks, it might be possible to defeat him. But the girl says no, and they won't go that far, because the main thing is that her father's consciousness was not harmed, and she is happy about that. The gentleman then wonders if the commander really believes everything this guy said. Well, the girl says no, and the guy is a little surprised. And the young lady says she believes her father, and believed that he had some kind of plan. But then the guy wonders what the meaning of the words about trust is. After which the girl claims that it is the crown prince, the musketeer, the commanders, the nanny. And even he can't be trusted, but she still trusts someone. The girl also understands that Chopin de Chopin is the third prince of the empire. A little while later, she is already near the palace, and His Highness says that she is probably tired. Eveline replies that he made her feel comfortable, and the guy claims that he thinks she will start to worry about the nobility because of recent events. So let her be patient for a little while, because the teacher will be back soon. And once they get married, no one will oppose them. The girl then thinks what this means, that she has very little time. At that moment, someone screams at Eveline, after which he approaches her, and the girl realizes that Count Oiron's entire family has red hair, and Pan claimed that his daughter Marianne was no exception. Rumors that she was in love with the crown prince spread quickly, and he assumes that she is not on good terms with Mrs. Eveline, but now the lady with red hair runs up to the main character, and he hugs her, which surprises the girl. And Marianne asks if she even knows how much she worried about her. The prince is watching all this at this time. That same evening, one of the young lady's servants is in the palace, and he says that his colleague is probably already there, and he is so lucky, after all, he will visit the capital. At that moment, the prince enters the room, and the guy asks why he is walking around, as if he is at home. Chopin replies that he wants to talk to the count, and the blue-haired boy asks if he hasn't finished his business. Well, he just says that if the guy wants to stop him, he will not resist and will leave. After which the servant asks if he met with the lady, to which the prince replies that this time he came not because of her, but of his own free will. After which the servant only sighs, and the prince moves on but claims that it may take a very long time, and he hopes that the guy won't let anyone extra in. After which he approaches the count, and he extends his hand, and also asks if he knew that he would come there again, and this time he wants to hear the answer. How did he find out about Duranca and save him? The main character is in the garden, with the lady with red hair at this time. The two of them walk together, and the young lady notices many rumors, and also, when they enter the palace, the luxurious furnishings there. Then they approach one man, and he asks Marianne where her manners are. The girl looks at him, and the lady with red hair just runs up to her dad. The main character realizes that this man is the same Count Oberon suspect number 1. At this time, someone else enters the room and says that she was wondering why it was so noisy in the palace, but it was so good when the girl was gone. It turns out that she is the queen of the kingdom of Leon, named Catherine. The lady with red hair immediately greets Her Majesty, and the main character does the same. Well, the queen just passes by them and then turns to Louis and asks if everything is okay with him. The guy then tells his mother that he's back, and the woman claims that it's because of that pathetic girl. Her poor son suffers. The main character at this time only looks at the queen, and she turning to her asks if she really was on the brink of life and had the courage to look her straight in the eyes. The girl then clenches her fists, but still apologizes for disturbing her. In front of Her Majesty, she also wonders if Eveline really lived surrounded by such worthless people. The girl also understands that she should behave like Eveline, and the woman asks if she really decided that she was worth something because of the upcoming wedding. But at that very moment, the crown prince closes the girl and tells her mother, as well as Mr. Oberon, that they will meet in the banquet hall, after which the man with red hair addresses Her Majesty and also suggests returning to the issue of sponsorship and the woman when she turns around. Well, as he leaves, he tells the girl not to forget that until she puts on the veil, she is only the daughter of a count on the outskirts. The lady with red hair then says that the queen is as usual, and she could at least be glad that Eveline arrived safe and sound. After which, the girl turns to His Highness and offers to have a snack. But the guy replies that they will first greet the king and the teacher, and he also already told her that they are no longer the same children who played in the Palace of Roses. After which, the girl is embarrassed and angry at the same time. The main character at this time thinks that she does not like the prince, and did Eveline really live there and endure all this? The lady with red hair at this time says that yes, they are not children anymore, and if so, then they will see each other later, after which they will say goodbye, and the lady with red hair will march towards them. Well then, he looks cold. The young lady and His Highness at this time approach the hall, where the king and the magician should be. Well, one of the servants claims that they said they would be there for dinner, after which the prince thinks for a bit. And then they head out into the street. When the other ladies see His Highness passing, they immediately bow. Well, when they go further, and the main character turns to them, she understands that everything is extremely clear. After all, these glances towards Evelyn are full of envy, jealousy, and contempt. The girl also understands that these are worthless. They dared to mock her little sister. The prince claims that if the girl goes to the Palace of Stars now, she probably won't make it in time for dinner. The young lady wonders if this is the place where Eveline lived, after which His Majesty says that the girl should rest there for now, and he will call the maid, after which the prince is about to leave, but the girl suddenly screams, and the guy asks what is wrong. However, the young lady does not answer, and the young man wonders if he should stay nearby. Well, he wanted to bring a dress for the banquet, after which the girl says no, and that's it. She thinks that they are rushing into the wedding too much, because no one is happy about it. And maybe it's worth waiting until the queen acknowledges her. The prince at this time looks coldly at the girl. But then, with a smile on his face, he tells Eveline not to worry, because everything is already prepared. And the main thing is that the father as well as the teacher agree, and she wanted this so much. The girl then wonders if Evelyn really wanted this and trusted him. And why did her father tell her not to trust anyone? The prince at this time claims that when everyone gathers at the banquet, he will announce their wedding. So there is no way back, and he asks if the girl understood this. The main character understands that this man cannot even distinguish her from Eveline, and she is already wondering if he really loved her sister. A little while later, these two are already at a banquet, and some aristocrats greet His Highness, while others whisper among themselves. The young lady realizes that, as expected, they all hate her and are all so dressed up and beautiful, but she smells the rot that fills the entire room, and her sisters must have had a hard time. At this time, one of the aristocrats asks if Marquis Berthaud will be coming today. The main character wonders who they are talking about, and another aristocrat claims that it would be good if he didn't come today. After all, he pretends to be a big shot showing off his money. But another aristocrat asks why not answer with money. He buys the respect of the people and in the army, although it is good that the count's daughter has returned, and it is better for her if she marries the prince and retains control of the army. But the other says that no, if they marry, the army will pass into the hands of the prince and the king, and then the kingdom will not be easy. But another one of them argues that this is better than handing over control of the army to Marquis Berthaud, and if the count does not wake up, he will still arrange the wedding. Then the commanders and military men who received money from the marquis could stage a coup and the army would come under his control. And there are also rumors that it was he who attacked Mrs. Eveline. The young lady at this time thinks that there are people who hate Berto more than Eveline's wedding, and this is surprising. The girl also wonders what kind of person this is, and at the same moment someone claims that Mr. Marquis Berto has arrived. The young lady realizes that he has finally come and that he is the man from the rumors, after which she thinks that she should look at his face, and the guy enters the hall. And the girl understands that now this man is the main suspect. The young lady is also a little surprised, and she wonders if this is really the Marquis, because she thought he was older than her father. One of the aristocrats then says that this is quite a sight, because the guy appeared there like a king. Another aristocrat claims that he is nobody without his inheritance and title, and it is also good that he has a bad relationship with the crown prince. At this time, the ladies say that the Marquis has finally arrived, and they thought that he would not be there and already wanted to leave. The guy then asks the gentleman for forgiveness and claims that he has dinner scheduled for tomorrow, so he hopes to see them there. One of the ladies then asks how they cannot come, and the other also asks if the Marquis is very busy lately. The guy then kisses the lady's hand and tells her not to call him Marquis. From now on, she called him by his name, that is, Francesco. The main character understands that it will be very beneficial for him if her family suffers. And this guy is impossible to read because he is wearing a mask. So the girl understands that he is definitely hiding something. But he thinks what it is. And is it really magic or sword art? But it is unlikely to be these two things. At this time, someone comes up to the young lady and says that here she is, but they haven't seen each other for a long time. It turns out that this is the same Marquis, but the girl wonders why he is so calm in the presence of Eveline. And does he really want to harm her and her father? The young man at this time congratulates her. Welcome back. And the girl understands that first, she needs to find out his motives, because she can't show him her emotions. Therefore, the young lady thanks the Marquis for his concern, and states that she too is very glad to meet them after such a long time. The girl understands that she will definitely find out what the Marquis is hiding, and what he needs from the troops. At this time, the guy just looks at the girl, and she asks what happened, after which he replies that nothing and she looks so healthy. Then someone else approaches the young lady and tells the Marquis that they haven't seen each other for a long time. It turns out to be His Highness, and he's wondering if the guy was a conversationalist for Eveline while he was gone. And he is also grateful for being so polite to the future princess. The Marquis is only silent after that, and the rest of the aristocrats watch this whole spectacle with a little bewilderment. After which, the blonde just smiles and says that His Highness is as energetic as always. The prince then claims that he heard the construction work was being completed and thanks him for his time. The guy then claims that there is a charity dinner tomorrow, and he will have to leave soon. The prince then claims that he is doing good work as always. But the Marquis wonders if aristocrats shouldn't do things like that. To which His Highness replies that the king is probably also glad to have such a loyal subject. But at that very moment, someone announces that His Majesty the King has arrived, and all the aristocrats immediately bow to him. The prince at this time turns to the young lady and invites her to also go and greet his father. And he also whispers to the girl to be wary of Marquis Berto, because he is their enemy. The main character then wonders if this is their enemy, but the fact that he is an enemy does not mean that the prince is her friend. At this time, the king is talking with the aristocrats, after which the girl and the prince approach him, and the man apologizes for not paying enough attention to her, but it's good that she returned safe and sound. The young lady then thanks His Majesty and thinks that it is good that at least there is no negative energy coming from him. But she can now breathe a sigh of relief, because he is not as evil as the Queen Louis. At this time turns to his father and asks if Teacher McFadden had not arrived with him. At this time, the man says that as his son knows, the poppy is not young, and he immediately went to the magic tower, but he still wonders why the prince needs him. He replies that he wanted to talk about the wedding with Eveline, and they can't put it off any longer. The king then asks if they are talking about the wedding, and the prince wonders if his father will give his consent, after which the man is interested. It turns out that his opinion is not so important to him, and he immediately looks for his teacher. After all, he sees that his son is still impatient to get married. But he also claims that everything has its time, because Evelyn only recently returned, and he wonders where the guy is in such a hurry. The young man then wants to object, But the man claims that soon there will be a hunting competition organized by the royal family, and many nobles, as well as knights, will gather. And let the guy also take part with her, and also show the girl to everyone, and then they will think about the wedding. Evelyn thinks how lucky she is, she almost married this guy. The king at this time proposes to raise their glasses, and everyone cries out, that may the kingdom continue to prosper. One prince is in a bad mood, and squeezes the girl's hand a little. Well, then someone turns to His Highness and states that they are glad to see him. The girl also congratulates the lady, welcome back. After which His Highness asks how they chewed, and he lets go of the young lady's hand, and then goes to talk to the aristocrats. The girl then realizes that she is standing right next to him, and looking at the prince, she thinks how poor her little sister is, because there was no place for her in the palace. After which the young lady goes out onto the balcony and thinks that even when she was next to the prince, she was an empty space for him, and it is unlikely that Eveline wanted to get married. The girl also understands that this prince will not tell her anything, but she will find out everything herself. And the reason why Eveline and the prince were planning to get married too. At this time, someone else comes onto the balcony and says that leaving your future princess alone is a bit rude. And apparently, the prince is not as romantic as one would like. The girl at this time wonders if this is Marquis Berthaud. At this time, the guy asks if he can keep her company if she doesn't mind. The girl then clenches her fists and wonders what he has in mind, but still answers, of course. After which he asks what happened, to which the guy replies that it was so unexpected, and he thought that she didn't like him. After which the girl claims that knowing this, he approaches her all the time. Eveline thinks that Marquis Berthaud is the prime suspect, and it is unlikely that he would approach Eveline without some motive. The guy at this time claims that he never found the time to approach her, but he is very glad that everything is fine with her. The girl then looks at him a little surprised, and is silent, and Ours asks, what is going on? Evelyn answers that she was thinking about the sincerity of his words. After all, if she disappears, then someone else will take her place. And when the Count found himself in such a state, the troops continued to trust only the Marquis. The guy claims that as a capable person, he simply helped his people and the army, which was starving. But apparently, the lady does not approve of his actions. The girl claims that she has no choice but to suspect him, after which she turns to the Marquis once more, and she asks if he wants to command the troops together with her father, but the guy only laughs after that. And he asks if his actions made her come to this conclusion. Well, the girl wonders if that's not true. After which, the guy claims that the rumors that Francesco Berto tried to get rid of Eveline are rumors that have been spreading rapidly lately. And the weaker a person is, the more he believes in what he wants to believe in. But the guy says that if it were true, then he would sit and plot something and not talk with her. The girl only gets angry after that, and claims that she will ask again. And does Francesco really want to take the place of the Count of Cayenne? The guy claims that he is only fulfilling the duties of a noble man, and that's all he can say to Mrs. Cayenne. But at that very moment, someone screams out to Eveline, and the main character sees that His Highness is there. The lady with red hair, at this time, lets go of his hand, and he stays behind. And the prince at this time turns to the Marquis Berthaud, and also asks if he didn't say that he would soon leave. The guy replies that he was just about to. But at that very moment, someone else comes out onto the balcony and says that this is where His Highness was. But they thought that he had left, and everyone was waiting, so let him join. After which, the guy extends his hand to his bride and invites her to go. Marquez also returns to the hall, and he claims that this is where they can end the fun, and that they will see each other again. One of the aristocrats at this time says that the other should just look at this useless brat. After all, at every questionnaire or evening, he always starts a scandal, and is also a cancer of high society. At this time, the prince turns to the main character and asks if she sees that this is the essence of this guy, and also that nothing good will come from her getting closer to him. He also wonders what they were talking about on the balcony, and whether the guy accidentally lost anything. The girl then replies that no, there was nothing special in that conversation. The prince then apologizes for leaving her alone, and the young lady remembers how he came to the balcony, with the lady with red hair who was holding his hand, and the girl just smiles, and also claims that she has a headache, so she will go and rest. The guy then asks if it is really so sudden, to which Evelyn replies that it is probably because she has not been among so many people for a long time. The guy is silent for a while after this, but then says that it's okay, and he will send security to her, so let the lady go and rest. The girl then asks him to take his leave and leaves, but she understands that the guy will not even offer to leave with her. But as she thought for him, Eveline was just a tool to achieve his goals. When the young lady goes out into the street, she remembers Marquis Berto and realizes that he turned out to be an unusual person. Even knowing that he was under suspicion, Berto was the first to approach Eveline, but the girl still does not understand the reason. And why doesn't he look like the kind of person who wanted to put her sister into eternal sleep? Well, when the girl goes further, she hears someone say that it's time to get rid of someone, and this is the enemy of the Leon Kingdom. Another noble says that this is true, and this time they must send them to hell, and also they must finish it in the upcoming hunting competition. A little while later, the girl approaches one of the palaces and realizes that Eveline lived there. After all, this is the place that was her prison. The young lady enters her room and sees that everything is dusty. At this time, the maid says that if the lady needs anything, she should call her. The main character then asks if they cleaned the room after her accident happened. The maid then asks what happened, and the girl claims that all the things were simply put away, and she says no. After all, they had never entered the room since that day. Eveline then clutches her dress, and she says that it is good, and also to eat. The maid goes to rest. She also remembers her father's words that she cannot trust anyone. Then the girl also notices the picture, and realizes that it is her father and her sister. The girl also remembers how this picture was painted, and she stood next to the artist. Then the main character asked if they could ask to be drawn again later when she returned from the palace, to which her father replied that of course. And Brilia told the girl to calm down because the artist was waiting for her, after which Eveline agreed. And finally, the artist painted a picture. Now the young lady looks at it and smiles sadly, after which she puts her down and realizes that in the end she couldn't get her sister out of there. The girl bites her lips and realizes that this place is worse than prison. The next morning, someone knocks on the young lady's door and then turns to her and claims that he is late, and it took too long to register him. Eveline claims that she was just waiting for him. It's also good that he came because the hunting competitions will start soon. The guy then asks if she is talking about hunting, to which the girl replies that His Majesty said so that she would also be present as a candidate for the position of Crown Princess. The guy then says that he hasn't seen her in action for a long time. Well, and then he says that she definitely can't either. The girl claims that that's why he has to play the decisive role. And also, he should not leave her even a step, after which Pan wonders if something has happened. The girl replies that her father once told her that all the dirt in history always began with hunting. And the guy asks if the commander thinks that someone will try to put her into eternal sleep. The girl replies that she is not sure, but she has a bad feeling. After which Pan says that even in danger, she cannot reveal her identity, and it will be difficult. And the girl claims that so one should not act without necessity. But then the guy turns to the commander and asks how much longer she will hide under the mask. And while he was going there, he saw a lot. After which the guys claim that there are of course no bars there. But this place is no different from a prison. And they not only put pressure on sinless people, but also try to plunge them into eternal sleep. So he asks what kind of country this is. He also apologizes to the commander and claims that if the lady is alive, then she is probably waiting for help. The girl then claims that everything is fine, and there is still a little time left before that. How will she reveal the one who dared to do this to Eveline? Pan claims that their squad is her sword and shield, and whatever choice she makes, they will follow her. The girl then says, of course, and when she finally takes off this mask that day, will be the last for their enemies. And it doesn't matter if they are from the royal family or nobility, even if it is the crown prince. A little while later, the girl is already heading out on horseback with His Highness. Well, when she looks at people, she sees their cold gazes on her. Pan follows the girl, and she thinks what a great weather it is for accidents. She also remembers the story that her father told her about. At that very moment, Chopin is sitting somewhere in the forest. A little while later, the hunt is declared open, and the king shoots an arrow from a crossbow hitting the deer exactly. Everyone immediately admires His Majesty, and the man at this time only turns to his son and asks if he likes this girl so much, because then he too must show himself. After which the boy agrees with His Majesty. At this time, the master remembers how the young lady told him to find out Who will bring troops and in what quantity? And the guy then asked if the commander thought that one of them would attempt on her life. But the girl then said that, who knows, they might not take the risk if something suddenly happens. Then they will try to share her with the prince a little while later. His Highness apologizes to Eveline. He also claims that he thinks he should go with the nobles and asks if she can slowly catch up with them. The girl then thinks that he probably knows that Eveline is being hunted and does not understand what he has planned. And shouldn't he have invited her along? The prince asserts at this time, it would be strange if he was always next to her, even while hunting. And the girl smiles after this and also tells the prince not to worry about her. The guy at this time only apologizes and then heads off further with the nobility. The gentleman then turns to the young lady and asks if it is not strange that he left his bride alone in such a dangerous place. The girl replies that she thought about it too, and then asks if he brought a list of participants, and the guy hands her a map. After which, the girl reveals it, and Pan claims that almost all the nobility and knights are participating in the competition. The girl then looks at this card and realizes that Marquis Berthaud has also come. She also asks what the distance is between them and the Marquis Berthaud, to which the man replies that they will cross paths together where the pass is planned. Well, if he really wants to attack her, the girl claims that the distance is decent and that's great, so she suggests walking and keeping the same distance as now. But the guy wonders if it's too dangerous. Evelyn replies that this is the only way to find out who their enemy is, and nothing can be done about it. After all, if she can't reveal the identities of her enemies, she will continue to hide from who knows who. Well, the girl also thinks that even if it's not the Marquise, then Eveline is definitely being hunted. After all, she seems to feel someone's presence, and the girl understands that this is a strong aura, so she thinks who it is. Then they drive a little closer to the aristocrats, and the young lady realizes that the people's attention is focused only on the hunt, and they won't even notice if something goes wrong. At this time, someone turns to the commander and claims that an unknown person is moving in their direction. Evelyn asks what squad they are from, to which the guy replies that he doesn't know, and also that he doesn't have a flag, and they don't look like they know. The girl then wonders if it has already begun, and the servant asks what they should do. The young lady says that they will leave the forest and go to a place where there are few people. But the guy asks if it wouldn't be better to go where there are a lot of soldiers, to which the girl replies that there are too many people there, and if a mercenary is hiding among them, he can shoot a poisoned arrow, and they won't understand anything. After which the girl screams that they need to hurry, but at the same moment, someone tells the commander that they are there. And the young lady sees that it is the flag of the Berthaud family, and also thinks that as expected it was Francesco. At this time, someone shouts that they need to move forward, and they must break through the forest. The girl also tells Pan that something is wrong ahead, and then she sees the lying soldiers of Marquis Berthaud, after which the servant asks what is going on there, and then the girl sees how the Marquis is fighting with these impostors. One of them then screams for the kingdom's enemies to be destroyed, and the girl realizes that their target was not her, but the Marquise. The gentleman tells the commander that they did not come to their liking, and suggests that they hide. But the girl tells him to wait, and also remembers the words of His Highness, that the weaker a person is, the more he believes in what he wants to believe. And also, let her not get close to him because he is their enemy. But then the girl also remembers how His Majesty left her. After which she turns to her servant and asks how many attackers there are, to which the guy replies that there are about 20. Well, in shock, he asks if the commander is going to attack them, after which the girl only extends her hand and tells him to give her the sword. Eveline understands that her father told her not to trust anyone, but she has her own reasons, and until she is sure of something, she will not allow anyone to fall into eternal sleep. The Marquis is breathing heavily at this time, and one of his subordinates asks if he is okay. The guy replies that he overestimated their strength, and they will not defeat these people, but at least they must stay alive and prepare for the investigation. The soldiers claim that they cannot do this and will protect the master to the end. But at that moment, this servant is pierced by someone's sword, and the assassin looks at the Marquise with a smile on his face. He asks if they are the Count's dogs or Louis's subordinates. But his interlocutor replies that they were not the only ones waiting for today, and that the Marquis must disappear for the safety of their kingdom. At the same moment, the main character rushes on a horse and approaches the Marquis. The guy looks at her in shock and asks if this is really Mrs. Cayenne. Well, the girl at this time skillfully cuts the flesh of several mercenaries, but at the same moment, someone throws her off the horse. And the young lady understands that these people are strong. And also, this is the level of palace knights. Then the girl turns to Francesco and asks if he can move because he needs to get up. Pereno only asks in surprise how the lady ended up there, and then cries out that they will talk later. Now let him follow her assistant, and quickly. One of the mercenaries at this time screams to his colleagues, "Why are they standing there and can't they handle the girl?" Another one claims that she is good with a sword, after which the guy with the scar on his face claims that he has seen this face many times. He also turns to his colleagues and says that they need to hurry, so let them deal with this girl. The gentleman, seeing this, cries out for the lady to be careful, but the chief of the assassins is already ordering the others to shoot. Eveline tries to dodge all these arrows, but then starts using her power, and then he approaches them at high speed. Their leader screams that this can't be, and is this really sword art? After which he puts his colleague in front of him and shouts for them to concentrate their attention on the Marquise. But the girl fights at the level of a swordmaster, so let them not fight with her. After which, this guy runs past the young lady and tells the traitor to go into eternal sleep. And the commander orders the assassins to attack because it's time to finish off this traitor. Pan tries to protect the Marquise, and the young lady tries to get closer to them. A little while later, the girl and her assistant are already very tired. Pan claims that there are too many of them, and the girl thinks who said that there are 20 of them, but suggests discussing all this later. At this time, the chief of the assassins claims that he does not know whose daughter she is, but he feels sorry to put her into eternal sleep. Therefore, he gives them one last chance, and if they hand over Marquis Berthaud to who they will give them time to escape. The girl at this time understands that if it were not for the Marquis, she would have destroyed them long ago. But it's hard to protect someone and fight at the same time. She looks at the Marquis and thinks what to do, and whether it's worth leaving him. Francesco at this time only swallows, and then tells the lady to leave. After all, what goes around comes around, and apparently that's his destiny. Evelyn says that the guy seemed more ambitious before, to which he replies that yes, he is a man who has a lot to do, but he is not so pathetic as to sacrifice their lives. The young lady then tells him not to be mistaken, because she is not trying so hard for him, and when they return alive, she will squeeze it out of him with interest. But then someone claims that he should say so. The girl then looks at the tree in shock and sees a young man with black hair there. He claims that this Marquise at least has money, but he can't remember what she has. One of the assassins at this time points at the guy and asks who he is, after which the prince jumps down from the tree and tells them to apologize. But they have important things to do, so let them wrap up their carnage. The guy also claims that it is worth retreating now, so as not to regret it later. One of the assassins screams out what a bastard he is, and he will plunge him into eternal sleep first. The brunette then sighs and says that he did give them a chance, and also that it's all over for them, but they won't even feel pain. The main character watches this in shock and realizes that she has a familiar feeling, after which she even wonders if this is really the art that her father wanted to teach her, and what is wrong with this guy. At this time, the chief assassin asks if there are really 2 sword masters there, and the young lady at this time turns to Pan and says that now is the time, after which they both run to the chieftain, and a little while later, they are already finished. When the main character looks at the prince, she realizes that he is very similar to her father. Pan then says that he can't believe his eyes, and they dealt with so many enemies in a matter of seconds. The Marquis says that, as expected, it was just rumors. And finally, the 3rd prince of the empire, as well as the 7th master, appeared. The young lady then wondered if they were acquainted, and the brunette replies that they will have to get acquainted. A little while later, they are already treating the Marquis's wounds, but the girl says that he needs to go back and get treatment, to which he thanks her, after which the young lady sits down opposite him and asks what happened, and if he knows whose doing it is. Francesco replies that he doesn't even know, because many people could do something like that. Eveline then claims that, to be honest, she thought he was playing dirty. After all, the nobility, whose relationship with the prince is not beneficial, hate him despite the fact that he is also nobility, and the girl wonders why there is so much fuss around him. The brunette at this time claims that everything is simple. After all, the sleeping land is slowly waking up. Eveline asks what he means and whether he is really talking about war. The guy replies that as far as she knows, There are 11 kingdoms on this continent, and most of them have already been conquered by the empire. Countries were destroyed, and people became slaves. The empire never forgave the kingdoms that resisted and fought to the end. He is both the third prince of the empire and a pure-blooded descendant of the Duran royal line. And the Marquis is the last descendant of the royal family of Zerom. And the place they are in is the kingdom of Leon. They continue to resist the empire, and all the artificial warriors of the fallen kingdoms have gathered there to help them with all their might. The Marquis is the leader of this movement, after which the main character says that this is understandable, but is interested in how the war and the assassination attempt on the Marquis are connected. The guy replies that the iron wall built by the kingdom has been standing for 100 years, but there is a limit to everything. The Marquis then asks the lady if she knows how the Leon people live at the moment. After all, the nobility has taken most of the fertile lands, and the people have to live in poverty. No one even trades, and this happened because the roads to the empire were blocked by iron walls. And the iron wall that was built to save itself from the powerful army of the empire contributes to the fall of the kingdom, like a tightening noose around the neck. The young lady then claims that nothing can be done about it, and if the country is destroyed, then war will immediately begin. But the Marquis claims that at this rate, the people will begin to fall into an eternal sleep from hunger, and it would be better to have a war. And he also always believed that they had a chance to win, because there was Count Cayenne and his army in the country. The chance will be even higher if the third prince who lost the battle for the throne joins them. The guy then sighs and asks if she heard that the other heir is really thirsty for war. The girl then clenches her fists and claims that by getting rid of the kingdom, he will assert his right to the throne by removing the candidate. The prince, however, claims that the problem is that he wants to know other thoughts about all this. Evelyn asks what thoughts they have, and in any case, they cannot avoid war. But the blonde man claims that they want to remove the wall so as not to fall into an eternal sleep from hunger. But at the same time, no one wants wars. Eveline is then surprised and asks if the nobleman really wants to hand them the kingdom on a platter, to which the Marquis replies that he wanted to use the term peace agreement, but since she understood everything, there is no need for that. The only way to avoid war is to surrender, so it's not that simple. Eveline then claims that her father was the biggest obstacle. At the same moment, someone screams that there was a large-scale battle because the ground is full of soldiers' bodies. At this time, the prince claims that he is gone, and the girl asks him to wait. He only asks if the crown prince is in cahoots with the nobility, but the brunette replies that such elementary questions. Let her look for the answer herself, because he didn't come there to teach her history, and he will also come to her when she is alone. At this time, the Marquis puts his hand on the girl's shoulder and claims that in any case, the three of them will see each other often, so it is better for them to finish now. The young lady is silent for a while after this and watches the brunette walk. At this time, the gentleman runs up to the lady, and he claims that the soldiers are gathering. The girl then hands him the ball and tells him to hold it. After all, he fought alone, and she helped the Marquis with his wounds, after which the guy nods. And the Marquis at this time turns to the girl and says that Eveline hated him to death, and she was even afraid to be in the same room with him, so she probably heard a lot of bad things about him. The main character is then shocked and wonders if this man really knew that she is not Eveline. But the Marquis claims that someone else is pretending to be her, or that she has shown her true nature. However, all this is unimportant, because for people like them, wearing masks is their destiny. The main character then wonders if he is talking about fate, and she realizes that this person is probably not what she thought. The guy then claims that he will never forget the day she gave him a new life. And the girl with a smile on her face says that, of course, she will have to return everything with interest, and that he should not forget about it. A little while later, someone cries out to His Highness whether it really happened while hunting, but he was wondering why it was so noisy. The prince claims that everything was as they heard. After which, one of the aristocrats claims that the matter is not simple, and another claims that it is precisely all the nobility that follows the Marquis that will answer to His Highness. They have little power, but they are very united, and perhaps the gang from the central sign has joined them, including Marquis Alain and other dignitaries from the ruined kingdoms who joined him. At this moment, someone knocks on his chair and asks if the master is not always responsible for the mistakes of the servants. One of the aristocrats cries out that they have nothing to do with this matter, and another of them claims that this is most likely the work of Oberon's gang, and that they want to set them at odds with Marquis Bertos. The prince says that naturally they would put this guy into eternal sleep without making any noise. Well, at that very moment, someone turns to His Highness and claims that now is not the time for jokes, because they say that the princess's legacy was next to the marquise, after which she asks if this is true, where another of the aristocrats screams, "How is that possible? And was the girl really with such a man at such a time?" The prince at this moment slams his fist on the table, and he claims that this is a good question. The main character, together with the marquise, is heading in a carriage at this time, after which he claims that they have arrived, because his fortress Bjorchaise is located there. At that moment, servants run up to the marquis and help him walk, and also insist that he needs to be cured. The guy claims that he is fine, and let them accompany the lady, after which the young man turns to Eveline, and he says that he will come to her in the evening. A little while later, the girl already says what a hard day it was. Pan then tells the commander that her ball skills were top-notch, but that Chopin is no slouch either. Eveline claims that she does not deny that he lives up to his title as a master, but the girl also wonders where he disappeared to, because he clearly had business with her. The girl claims that they should stay there overnight and asks if everything will be okay, and the servant asks whether she is talking about the marquise, or the Prince. Eveline says that there is no need to worry about the marquise, and about the prince even more so. The guy claims that there is probably a commotion in the palace now, and the girl asks what happened to that, and also did he see how cold-bloodedly the prince left her. She also asks, what if these mercenaries were sent not for Francesco, but for her? And only one thing is clear, and that is that the prince did not value her sister. The girl claims that she will say that she came with the marquis to look after him, and what the prince can do to her, but she still can't understand, because her little sister was a great advantage for the prince, because he would be able to take over the army. Well, she thinks why he treats her so carelessly. At this moment, someone turns to the lady and asks if he can come in. The girl then asks if it is Francesco, and also whether he can move, to which the guy replies that thanks to her, if it weren't for her and her assistant, his life would be in danger. While the girl then says that he should still rest. The guy, Jay, claims that he would also like to, but there are urgent matters and people who are waiting for her. Eveline asks if it is really Chopin, after which the guy replies that no, because he will probably come by tomorrow, and she should also personally see who came, after which the girl changes clothes and goes into the corridor. Several aristocrats come there, and the marquis says that the lady should get acquainted because they are his comrades. One of them is Marquis Alan. The other is Christine Fiore. She is the 5th commander of the Southern Army, and Marquis Alan's little sister, the girl, claims that she is glad to see Mrs. Cayenne. Meanwhile, the Marquis continues his performance and claims that this is the best stylist in the kingdom, whose name is Philip Cocu. The main character doesn't even know what to say. Francesco asks what happened, to which the girl replies that it's her first time at such a meeting, and whispers, asking if her position is high enough to receive such an honor. The guy then says that she shouldn't get the wrong idea, and that these are people who respect Count Cayenne, including him. After all, they had long wanted to meet the Count's family, because he was the young lady's father. He was never afraid and was ready to fight, so he is a true warrior. And with the sword of the Kingdom of Leon. And the girl after that only smiles and thinks about her father. She also understands that everything is not at all like when she was officially greeted at the palace. After which the young lady bows and says that her name is Cayenne Eveline, and thanks them for their hospitality. Alan tells the lady that he is excited, and that they are not meeting for the first time. The girl then says that they have not seen the marquise for a long time. The guy gets down on one knee and claims that he heard about her because the lady defended the marquise at the cost of her life. So he expresses his gratitude to her on behalf of all his comrades. The girl feels a little awkward about this, and he thinks that this marquis is the one who can stand up to Count Oberon because he is an important figure among the emerging nobility, and he has knelt before her. Eveline understands that all these people are quite famous, and he is their leader, because before she thought that this guy was just a show-off with money. But whatever his intentions, such a person should not easily fall into eternal sleep, and she made the right choice. At this time, the guy turns to the lady and asks if she trusts him now. And the girl wonders what her father thought of this man. At this time, His Highness is sitting at a meeting, and someone cries out whether this is true. Someone else argues that this is a serious problem, because the Marquis kidnapped Lady Cayenne, and an army must be sent to him, after which one of them turns to His Highness and asks what he will offer, to which the guy asks where he will get an army capable of defeating Marquis Berthaud. Well, one of them asks why not, because they have already prepared everything a long time ago, and the one who swore allegiance behind Count Cayenne's back. His loyal dog is from the Western Army, that is, the Western Army of the kingdom. The Marquis is sitting with everyone at this time and claims that Madame Cayenne is now with them, and they also need a specific plan for their next steps. The girl then claims that before that, she is there as the heir of the Count and understands all these complicated relationships between them and the central nobility. And the current situation puts their lives and the Marquise's lives at risk, as well as the future of this kingdom. So let them perceive her as the crown princess, and if they have something to say to her, then let them not be shy. The Marquis then says that the lady is amazing, and then invites each of them to speak out. Alan claims that their main problem is the crown prince, because even now the royal guard is probably hunting them. Another man argues that it is good that they do not yet have power over the Western Army, and also asks the lady if she knows about the agreement between the royal family and the Count. The girl answers that of course. After all, based on this agreement, all troops on the Western Front belong to the central army of the kingdom. But then the man claims that in reality everything is not so, and probably Count Oberon, like the Marquise, as well as the other 12 people from the central government, temporarily assume power and after careful consideration and negotiations will hand it over to the royal family. Although they are not going to hand over the troops to them, the girl then asks if it means that the power over the Western Army will pass to the nobility, but Alan's sister claims that there is no sense in this, since the command will remain with the musketeer and the commanders who followed the Count of Caen. They cannot act and wait holding the defense, and in other words, at such a rate the power of the army will be suppressed. The main character then asks why this is about the Marquise, and the answer is because that they are trying to overcome the dictatorship of the royal power, and Crown Prince Louis is trying to suppress the nobility, and also to rule the kingdom with the help of a powerful army. Of course, he also does not like it, and as you know, too much is lying down. But the Crown Prince wants only one thing, and that is dictatorship. Dogmas, hypocrisy, empty ideals. He proposed crazy ideas regarding the kingdom's policy, and had long since ruined relations with the nobility. Therefore, if suddenly the prince gains power over the army, then a great massacre will begin, and not only the nobility, but also the common people will suffer. The Marquis also tells the lady that he wants to ask her about something. He also heard that the crown prince has decided to have an early wedding, so the guy wonders if he by any chance said that they should get married before the troops pass into the hands of the nobility. The girl is surprised by this, and Alan's sister claims that she knew it all along, because half is true and half is a lie. Alan says that he is sure that the agreement is written about the Cayenne family, and here next to them, the lady of this family is sitting as well as the daughter of the Count of Cayenne Marquez, claims that this matter concerns her wedding. And now, Eveline must take everything into her own hands, because he is sure that only then will all the commanders who obeyed her father be able to swear allegiance to her. The girl then wonders if this is how it really was, and she also remembers how the elders worried about her, and also how the prince greeted her with tears in his eyes, and now she wonders why none of them told her about it. The girl also wonders if her little sister knew about this, and if she did, then why didn't she do anything? Maybe she was afraid, or maybe she was locked in the palace, and also she couldn't do anything and thought that her sister would do better than her. Or maybe the girl really loved the crown prince. That same evening, the main character is sitting on the couch, and she thinks that everyone seemed to be trying to put her father and sister into eternal sleep, but if you take into account the little things, then everything is not so clear-cut. None of them will benefit much from the disappearance of their family, and on the contrary, there will be chaos in the kingdom because they will not be able to control the army. Her father told her not to trust anyone, and the girl then asks for even the slightest clue. At that very moment, she hears someone opening the window, after which the girl immediately picks up a dagger and throws it in that direction, after which it crashes into the wall. The brunette at this time claims that he is surprised every time. After all, as far as he knows, the daughter of Count Cayenne has not studied the art of the sword. The girl then says that jokes are completely out of place and asks if he thinks so, after which she also claims that he had seen her abilities before. She was also told that he would come tomorrow. But the guy insists that there is no time to waste, and he has just spoken to the Marquise. The girl then asks if he can show up without any surprises, to which the brunette replies that besides the Marquise, there are a lot of extra eyes around, and meeting her alone could cause a stir. The young lady then suggests getting down to business and asks what he wanted to talk to her about. And did he really want to say something about her father? After which the guy just looks away and bites his cube. The main character is a little surprised by this and says that he came himself and is silent, after which she asks what happened. The brunette then addresses her as Brelia and claims that her father asked him to convey these words to her, that he trusts her with the life of her little sister, who is probably still alive. The girl then asks him in a trembling voice what he is talking about, after which the young man claims that the Count may never wake up again. The young lady then asks in shock if her father really said that, and realizes that everything that was important to her was, one by one, things began to disappear from her life. The third prince claims that of course there is a slim chance, and there are some improvements at the moment. And the girl asks if he really came there just to tell this, after which the guy is silent for a while, and then claims that the Count left her with no one, because the three of them with the Marquis Berthaud have the same goal, and from now on, they will act together. The brunette also claims that they could be working undercover as her security or something like that. But then he is suddenly surprised because he sees the girl swinging at him. The guy defends himself against this, and the girl only asks if she will work with him. The guy then claims that he understands her feelings, but she must trust him. The girl then attacks him again and screams, "Does he remember those eyes and that style?" The young man then tries with difficulty to evade, and the girl claims that she is the commander, who stopped him at the border, and he probably knew about it for a long time, because his father told him everything and he didn't even show it. And he is the prince of the empire, who somehow communicates with the count of the enemy kingdom, and did not even say for what reason. And then he left when she so desperately asked for help. But now he showed up there and wants to work together. So how can she trust him? The girl screams that he knows nothing about her, and her goal is not the revival of the kingdom or the war with the empire, because she wants to find all the bastards who did this to her family. The blonde then asks what kind of relationship he has with her father and why he came there, after which the guy remains silent and still claims that he was simply asked to do so. He also tells the girl to think about everything, because after the Marquis was attacked, she was at a dead end, Count Kien. His daughter, the Marquise. Someone is trying to remove all those capable of taking command of the army, and it could be someone from the central nobility, Count Oberon, or even the crown prince. Perhaps the Empire has started this game. They are all their common enemies, and the guy asks if she thinks so, after which he holds out some kind of sword and asks if she recognizes what it is. The girl then realizes that this thing is a sword that her father trained with. Well, now she hesitates. The brunette claims that this is the sword that the Count wanted to give her when she reached the level of mastery, and he said that at first it would be difficult for her to control it. And whether she wants it or not, he is the only successor to the Count who will teach her his art. And he promises her one thing for sure. That is, as long as she wants it, he will protect her and help her in everything. The girl is then a little surprised and understands that her father told her not to trust anyone, but she thinks about this man. After which she realizes that she must trust only herself and throws the dagger on the floor. Well, she still tells him to do what he wants, whether she wants it or not. Everyone who wanted to leave her did it. When the prince leaves the room, someone turns to him and says what a stormy dialogue there was. It turns out to be the Marquise, and he claims that he thinks they agree on this since they are both swordsmen. The brunette replies that there is no reason to worry, and she was very puzzled by the news, but she has a strong will. And also the girl must be strong and definitely must be on their side. The Marquis also wonders why the guy didn't tell him more about the Count, and he has a very special relationship with him. If he had told about that story, the girl would have understood everything easily. But the brunette, asking if the guy thinks anything about the one who erased the word trust from his life. Someone's past is important. And now what she needs most is not truth, but sincerity. The Marquise then says, what a pity, and claims that romance will not help their cause. After which the blonde also turns around and whispers in Chopin's ear, asking if she is the real Eveline. The brunette then claims that she is the daughter of Count Cayenne, and he swears his life to him. The blonde-haired boy then smiles and watches his friend walk away. At this time, someone turns to His Highness and states that it is almost dawn, so let him make a decision. The guy then says that it's good and that they are heading to the western garrison right now. All the aristocrats are surprised by this, and one of them says that it is too far, so let him send a message. Another man also says that His Highness should inform them to come with the army to the estate of the Marquis Berthoud, and let him try to talk to Berthaud, and if he resists, then the army. But the man then asks if they think that he has not thought about it, but he wants to personally receive a dinner of loyalty from him and control the troops. At the moment, half of the Western Army is under the command of Count Cayenne, and the other half under the command of Marquis Berthaud. And if he appears and says that we need to save Mrs. Cayenne, who will be able to lead the army and earn the trust of the soldiers? The aristocrat then asks His Highness, what if the lady leaves while he is away? But the man claims that this is unlikely to happen. Berthaud will try to keep her with him by various tricks. At this time, someone knocks on the door of His Highness's office, after which a girl enters the room and claims that the elite royal guard of 500 people is ready. His Highness then rises from his seat and tells everyone to follow him because he will destroy the Marquis and his entire gang who dared to encroach on the princess. The young lady at this time remembers her father and realizes that he was more than just family to her. He was the sword of the Lian kingdom and a hero of the people. As his heir, the girl also decided to follow his example and protect the entire family as well as the kingdom. But now she has lost everything. The girl understands that she tried in every way to avenge her family, but in the end, she faced herself losing important people to her one after another. A little while later, Eveline dresses in uniform, after which the third prince comes up to her from behind and asks if she has made up her mind. The girl claims that she will continue her father's business, and now he will have to help her. The prince then says that this is unexpected. And could it really be that after just one night of reflection, she decided to trust him? Eveline replies that she doesn't believe him and just decided to change her approach. Before that, she lived thinking only about battles, and when troubles with her father and sister began, she became overwhelmed by emotions. The young lady understands that if she continues to act thoughtlessly, the day will come when she will be manipulated. At this point, the brunette asks what their plan is, and the girl replies that as her father's heir, she must take control of the Western Army and find out if the crown prince is really their enemy. The guy then asks why the prince, too, which the girl replies that he is in close proximity to her and that they must immediately deal with him if he is their enemy. And if the prince is involved in all this, then there will be many suspects. So if they start to stir the prince, these lurking shadows will show up right away. The guy claims that it is not surprising, because the girl is the count's daughter after all. The main character smiles at this, and then suggests to begin. The Marquis at this time treats his wounds, but suddenly he hears someone knocking on his room door and asking who is there. The girl then enters the room, and the blonde claims that he thought she was sad and that he would not convince her anytime soon. But he asks if it was really for her fiancé's sake that she decided to take his miserable life. Evelyn claims that she sees him better now that he is in the mood to talk nonsense. Then the young lady sits down on his bed and hands the Marquis some Sansantenay water, and also claims that it acts as a painkiller. A little while later, the main character already, she helps the Marquis change the bandage, and while she does this, the two of them remain silent. Francesco decides to break this silence and claims that Chopin says that she is strong. But the girl replies that, who knows, because to be more precise, she quickly adapts to the situation. The guy claims that this is because just a few days ago, they were being careful with each other, and today they are sitting together like this. They will wait until dawn and go to the palace to impeach the crown prince. He must answer for daring to attack the nobility without any reason. The main character claims that this is why she came to him, after which she claims that from now on the Marquis must lie down and be ill, and it is also necessary to spread rumors that he is in very bad condition. The guy then asks what she is talking about. The girl replies that Baron Alan Christine Philip, only these three people should know about this. The Marquis then asks why. To which the young lady replies that from this moment on, she will consider not only the royal family as enemies, but all the nobility, which is why the guy is surprised. And the young lady remembers how His Highness walked arm in arm with other women, and how he left her on a hunt. After which the girl says that she will do it for him, for Chopin, and for herself. And the Marquis must be as quiet as a mouse, because she will figure it out completely. The girl also claims that she will return to the palace and find out everything. The Marquis then asks if she will even find out about the prince's heir, to which the girl replies that it is the man who drowned her in these feelings. And there is Louis. The blonde then wonders, all about the fox lady will be fine. And the girl asks what he is talking about. After all, the princess wants to return to her prince. The guy says that he is not talking about that, but about her condition. After all, doing what you don't want is the hardest thing. The girl then claims that she has lived almost her entire life in a hellish palace, so nothing will change from Togo staying there for a few more days. Only the girl claims that she hopes that when she finds out everything, the guy will not become her enemy. The Marquise is only surprised by this, and a little while later, someone asks if the lady wants to return to the palace. And in such weather too, one of the aristocrats suggests that she wait there for now. But the girl replies that if she stays, they will have problems too. He replies to her interlocutor that this cannot be avoided. However, the situation is not pleasant, and the Marquis's condition leaves much to be desired. And they also said that his condition worsened last night. And then another aristocrat says that at such a moment she should stay with them, and she must also become their support. The girl is silent for a while after this, but claims that she has something to say to the three of them. A little while later, the young lady is already heading in a carriage, and when she arrives at the palace, someone reports that Madame Cayenne has returned. The brunette turns to the young lady and says that the kingdom of Leon is too noisy, to which the girl replies that it is all because of her, and that they said that Marquis Berthaud was a troubled man. And it's not surprising that everyone looks at her with such eyes, because she returned a few days later from his estate. The brunette then claims that he does not see the prince and wonders if he was not supposed to meet the young lady. After which, the girl asks if he is talking about that person and claims that she did not expect such actions from him. At this time, someone else comes up to them and asks why it is so noisy there. The queen wonders if some important person has arrived. The lady with red hair notices that it is Eveline. The main character bows to Her Majesty and claims that the daughter of Count Cayenne greets her. But the woman then says that it is not necessary, and the girl really irritates her, because every time she sees her, she thinks how terribly her father raised her. She also wonders how many times her precious son must suffer because of her. At this time, the lady with red hair takes Eveline by the hands and claims that everyone thought that Marquis Berthaud had kidnapped her during a hunt, and they all became worried. The heir personally went to the Marquise to save her. It's been a few days now, so the prince has probably arrived there. The queen says it's unlikely to be a kidnapping, and most likely, the girl had already managed to get close to this lecher, and despite this, the prince went to save her. The main character at this time tries to control herself and claims that they misunderstood everything. After all, the Marquis was attacked by unknown people, and he was in danger, so she could not pass by and gave him first aid and also took him home. The queen of such words only smiles and also claims that she heard about the commotion on the hunt, but will not believe it until she sees it herself. And this time, she will not leave this matter just like that. The lady with red hair at this time addresses Her Majesty and claims that everyone can hear them. Eveline wonders why the crown prince acted so stupidly, and if he was going to Marquis Berthaud, they should have crossed paths. But did he really go a different way? And the girl understands that even if he has an army with him, it's somewhere around several hundred, and the Marquis has somewhere around 1,000. And a reasonable person would never do such a thing. Well then, the main character wonders if the prince really wants to take control of the Western army under the guise of saving her. She is not sure that her subordinates will agree given their dislike for the royal family, but this is only a guess, and then another method is needed. After which, the young lady cries out to Her Majesty and claims that the heir is in danger because the people of the Marquis Berthaud hate the prince, and she is sure that they will try to harm him, after which the girl screams that she will personally go to the Western army and ask them to help His Highness. So she asks for permission, The girl understands that under the pretext of protecting the prince, she must first gain control of the army. At this time, someone turns to His Majesty and claims that perhaps Duke Oberon and the other signs have learned that he is heading for the garrison of the Western Army. Well, the prince says that it makes no difference to him, and he finally had a reason to take control of the Western Army. So if he says he's going to save Mrs. Cayenne, no one will dare to object to him. The main character at this time turns to her favor and claims that this evil queen has finally allowed it. But she values her son's life, and she doesn't like that she is in the kingdoms. The third prince at this time tells the girl to wait and says that he has a request for her guard, after which he asks if he could go to the Empire, to which he replies that it is not difficult for him, but after which the prince only gives him a roll of paper in his hands, and when the servant asks what it is, he replies that it is a letter to his unit, that is to the 3rd Imperial Corps. And also his soldiers are waiting for him, and probably already started to worry, so he hopes that he will pass this letter to the deputies. Pan then asks what he has in mind at such a time. Their main character asks, is he really sending the letter just for that reason? The third prince claims that he wouldn't send it just to say hello, and that it's to protect her. The gentleman then turns to the lady, as if asking what he should do, to which the girl replies that he should do what the prince commands, because he is also risking a lot for this, and they must make concessions. After all, now is not the time to nitpick over trifles. A little while later, the girl and the prince are already riding horses, and when they enter one of the mountains, the young lady claims that she has never seen this place before. The guy says that it is too empty and not many people know this place. He also thinks that they have cut the route in half. The girl then says that she sees that the prince of the empire knows about a foreign country better than the locals. The guy replies that when he was very little, he came there to escape the horror that was happening in the royal palace, and he wonders if the count didn't tell the girl. Evelyn looks at him a little surprised, and then says that everything is going well overall, and she hopes that they will arrive today. Well, the prince says that this is not possible, because as soon as they enter the gorge, night will fall, and he thinks that everything will be fine with them. But if suddenly these horses stumble, it will be very bad. And the whole body is wet, so they need to set up camp. Eveline looks at the prince, but still does not object. A little while later, they are already making a fire, and the prince tells the girl to get some sleep. He also asks if she is worried about her guard, but says that he has his letter with him, so the girl does not have to worry about him. At this time, the main character gets up from her seat and claims that she has had a good rest, so let him sleep. After all, she had a good rest, so let him sleep now, and she will see if there is anyone suspicious on the horizon. The prince then claims that it seemed to him that they had become closer, to which the girl replies that she does not think so, and even if they act together, it does not change the fact that he is a man of an enemy country, and she also turned a blind eye to the fact that he corresponds with his soldiers, after which the guy says that since she didn't trust him, he should have just refused. But the girl says that it wouldn't have changed anything, because he was already there, as if he was at home. The guy then sighs and claims that the new emperor is trying to destroy his unit, and also his soldiers like him were descendants of Duranka or Kunta, and they were related to each other as true brothers. His brother had originally planned to remove him from his path, and he was unlikely to let go of those who had sworn allegiance to him. And also now he has nowhere to go, so now he sits next to her to help. The girl then asks if he really decided to help the daughter of the count of an enemy kingdom in one day, but then she also tells him to forget about it, because in principle she understands his plan, and she doesn't care how he will live his life well. She has her father's Western army, and she is not going to ask for help from those with whom they have been at odds until now. The guy then asks if she thinks that the commanders of the Western army will be on her side. After all, in his eyes, they are only selfish people, and if they were truly loyal to the count, then putting their lives on the line, they would support her and hand her over to Titus. After which he asks if the girl thinks so, but she only looks away, and also remembers the words of the musketeer that Serena's people swear allegiance to only one person in their entire lives. At this time, someone bursts into the musketeer's room and shouts that the crown prince has arrived, but he only laughs. And he also says that, of course, that's how it should be, and it wasn't for nothing that he trusted and submitted to him. After this, his interlocutor claims that he is sure that the prince wants to take over the Western army, and he is worried about the other commanders. The man then asks how they dare refuse, because the lady is in danger, and this is even for the best. After all, how conveniently this stupid Eveline fell into the hands of the Marquis, and so the prince had a reason. Therefore, now he can destroy the Marquis, and also save Eveline, and then the Western army itself will submit to him, and all that remains is to destroy the commanders who are loyal to the Count. The man then asks if they are doing the right thing, but the musketeer asks what the difference is, since it is different from other commanders. They were not originally the Count's men. After which the boy asks if there will be any unexpected changes, but the musketeer asks what kind. And the guy says that maybe the Western army will say that it will follow Eveline, but his interlocutor claims that this will never happen. After all, everyone uses the girl for their own purposes, so she is weak and insignificant, and who would want to follow her? A little while later, the main character is already in the county and asks if he has already left, to which one of the servants claims that yes, so he has. And also 4 days have already passed. The girl then asks if only the commander of the 3rd Battalion is left, to which the man replies that yes, the rest are led by the Crown Prince. The young lady then wonders how they left so quickly. However, the brunette tells the lady that there is no need to be upset. After all, even having fallen behind them, they arrived there very quickly, and it is a large army, so it is unlikely that they managed to go far. After which he suggests hurrying up, and the young lady agrees. However, when they are about to leave, one of the commanders stops them, turning to the lady. The girl then turns around and asks what happened, and the man asks how things are going, since they were told that she was kidnapped by the Marquis. Berto Eveline says that she thinks there was a misunderstanding, and the Marquis is now on the verge of life. So what kind of kidnapping can we talk about? And if they are not stopped right now, it will be bad. Then the main character gets on her horse and goes further, but suddenly an arrow flies at them. The brunette immediately cuts her in mid-flight, and the main character turns around in shock and asks if he's okay, to which the guy replies that they were attacked. Eveline wonders who dared to attack the mistress of the Western garrison, but the prince claims that now is not the time to find fault with this, because they are coming, and they need to get off their horses. Eveline replies that she knows, and then they jump off their horses. Their enemies at this time start shooting arrows, but the girl knows how to cut them, and the prince as well. After which they also see how swordsmen attack them, and the main character is shocked and wonders if this is really the Western army. After which the girl asks why the Knights of the West are attacking her. But at the same moment, where arrows fly into the ear, and the prince screams in shock to her, after which they jump forward. The girl also remembers how Chopin said that, in his eyes, these commanders were only selfish people, and she wonders if he was right. At this time, someone tells the other knights to move away, and the girl in shock asks if this is really the commander, to which he says that he feels sorry in front of the lady. But the girl wonders why he is doing this, and for what purpose. The commander claims that he sees no point in making excuses, and from now on, she should not be there anymore, because that is the only way they will all survive. At this time, the main character turns to the brunette and tells him to return to the Empire, and she will distract them. After all, even if he has the skill level, it will be difficult to fight and defend against arrows at the same time. But the guy only says that she upsets him, and wonders if the girl has already given up on something, screaming that this is her battle. After which she claims that, to be honest, she shouldn't have doubted his words, and therefore doesn't want to drag a stranger into these matters. Well, at that very moment, the brunette stands behind her and says that, like father, like daughter. Well, they are both very stubborn, and he, on the contrary, would try his best to stay alive, although his aura is gloomy. But in general, he is a person who gives great promise. The young lady then smiles and says that then they will see what he is like, and also takes his hand in hers. At this time, the other knights begin their attack, but at that very moment, a dagger flies into one of them, and when the main character looks up, she sees that her colleagues are in the trees. At this time, the knights turn to the commander and ask what they should do, and the guy with blue hair jumps down from the tree and then turns to the captain. The girl realizes that it is Leo, after which the boy orders to destroy all the knights and not to fall into eternal sleep. The main character turns to the prince and says that now is the time after which the two of them use their sword techniques. A little while later, the commander is left alone, and the main character puts a sword to his throat, and also says that it is unlikely that the commander of one battalion will attack his master, and she wonders who ordered him to do this. The man then only bites his tongue and claims that the kingdom of Leon will be forever. After this, the prince checks his pulse, and when he turns to the main character, he shakes his head, showing that he has already fallen into eternal sleep. The girl then becomes furious. A little while later, she turns to Leo and asks how he got there, to which the guy replies that he noticed that the commander of the 3rd Battalion was behaving strangely and decided to follow him. And as soon as she left, he began to gather troops, but the main character asks how they could all come, and what about the border? The guy replies that the hell is going on in the country, so how could they stay there? And they are devoted only to the lady. After which, he turns to the others and asks if this is true, to which they nod. And the girl says that overall, they did a great job. And Leo claims that now the captain owes him his life. But the girl only says that then she offers to arrange a special sparring match just for him. Then the girl says that, okay, they won't be needed anymore, so they need to go to the border, and there is somewhere to go. Leo then asks what she's talking about, and the brunette asks her to wait, and says that she needs to think everything over. The girl then asks what exactly, to which the guy replies that the commander overcame her, and in order to hide his patron, he plunged into eternal sleep. After which, he asks if the lady understands what he is getting at, and probably the Western Army no longer belongs to her. Leo tells the captain that if that's really the case, then there's no point in going there alone, and it's like jumping into a fire. But the girl then remembers the Marquis, and claims that if she doesn't go, then Francesco will. At this time, the prince takes the girl by the hand and tells her to think about only one thing now. It's about yourself and your little sister who might be alive. At this time, you are at the Marquise's estate. Someone screams at Christine that there are too many of them and asks if there are ways to get out. The guy also screams that the crown prince is a scoundrel, and they also thought that he would drag the Western Army there. Another one claims that letting Lady Cayenne go was a mistake, and that she may have betrayed them and returned to the prince. But then one man screams at them to shut up and wonders if it matters now, and if he has time to think about it, then he should go out and fight. Alan agrees with him and claims that the Marquise trusts Madame Cayenne, and without a doubt, the crown prince himself started all this. Kristen takes his sword out of its sheath and tells them to grab the Marquise and go to a safe place because she will cover them. At this time, the prince is in the western garrison and claims that a little more, and they will capture them. He also says that all followers, including the Marquise himself, should be captured or put into eternal sleep on the spot. The commanders are silent after this, but then one of them asks if the Marquise really grabbed Mrs. Cayenne, to which the prince asks what he means, and the man replies that their behavior is very strange. After all, they should have tried to agree a long time ago whether they have their mistress as a hostage, but they don't react at all. At this time, someone turns to the musketeer and asks what if the lady is not there, and what will happen then? But the guy replies that it does not matter. Now Eveline is just an excuse, because they will do two things at once, namely destroy the Marquise Berthaud and appropriate the Western Army. Or even if the girl is not there, she is probably sitting somewhere and chilling over a cup of tea. The guy then says that's how it is, and the musketeer turns to His Highness and asserts that it is time, so let him order what he should agree to, after which he screams that they are going straight ahead and that no one can be left alive. Christine screams that they are attacking, and we must stand to the end. But at that very moment, the army stops, and one of the knights screams for the commander to look up, after which they see the main character there, and the prince in shock asks if it is Eveline. He also asks how so, and the girl orders everyone to stop and claims that she was in the palace. But at the first news she came there, and also Eveline Cayenne is completely safe. No one kidnapped her, and she is perfectly fine, so let them stop this useless battle. But the prince will only get angry after that. And also he screams, what are they waiting for? Because he has already given the order, after which the army runs forward. Well, and the girl then raises her sword. And she also says that the Western Army should hear her words, because as their ruler from the Cayenne family, she gives them the order to stop immediately. And if someone dares to obey, then according to military law, she has the right to decide all the heads. Christine then happily says that the lady did not abandon them. The prince at this time asks how this could happen, since Eveline should have been there, after which he screams out that this can't be. A little while ago, the brunette turned to the young lady and said that this is what he thought. And he asked if she didn't find the prince's behavior strange, because before he united with her, he received reports about the prince's actions, and whether with her or without her, he always acts as if he has thought out her moves in advance, and as if he is watching her. The third prince then asked if he had acted strangely or not given her anything. The main character then remembered that very brooch and said that it was the last protective brooch in the palace. The young lady also held it out and claimed that it was a brooch of protection, and the prince gave it to her, saying that it would protect her. The guy then took this brooch in his hands and told her to wait, and then he even insisted that it wasn't her, because it was a beacon. That is magic for tracking location, and the one who gave it to her can see her location. The brunette also claimed that, if he were a good person, he would have thought that the prince was worried about her, but the girl then told him to forget about her and not continue, because given the prince's character, he would have immediately said if he was worried, and he was 100% watching her. After which, the brunette offers to break this artifact, but the main character tells him to wait and offers to leave it there, because when they destroy it, the prince will begin to suspect something. And also, if he really is following her, then maybe he is up to something. And if he thinks that she is near the marquise, then they can find out what he really wants to achieve. The girl also understands that she so hoped that she would be wrong, but he started all this because she was with the marquise. Now the knights are shocked and ask if this is really Lady Evelyn, and one of them says that she is indeed fine, after which the captain shouts for them to put away all their swords and stop the attack. The prince at this time only gets nervous and turns to the musketeer, after which he screams, "How dare they disobey his order, and let them continue the attack." But no one listens to him, after which the main character also turns to His Highness and asks if he can explain what is going on there. Well, the guy only asks why she is there, and the girl wonders if he really means why the one who was supposed to be inside ended up there. At this time, one of the knights stands in front of His Highness and cries out how rude this is, and also does she really dare to interrogate Her Highness. The main character then tells Mercedes that she has no right to interfere, and wonders if she still can't assess the situation. After all, innocent soldiers sacrificed themselves, and another 1,000 soldiers almost sank into eternal sleep there. And because of the wrong decision, their entire kingdom was at risk of self-destruction. They are all ordinary soldiers, and their people they must protect. The girl then asks if that is not so, and the prince at this time cries out that as he thought such scum should not be trusted, and wonders how they dared to disobey his order. The captain of one of the squads claims that he brought them there for one purpose, and that is to save the lady, but now they have no reason to listen to him and continue the fight. Another also says that it was because of the crown prince that they almost all sinned and let him bear responsibility. The guy at this time only clenches his teeth and says that they should not make him laugh, after which he asks who their mistress is. He also screams that this girl is a fake and is not his bride. And he also has evidence, and in fact the main character at this time, thinks what he is talking about, and does he really know who she is? And the guy claims that on that day, Evelyn for sure. Well, at that very moment, he stops, and the main character tells His Highness that this is what he meant, after which she tells him to continue, and also to tell who she really is and what happened to Evelyn that very day. One of the knights at this time is still saying how impudent it is, and screams for Evelyn to move away from him, but the girl claims that she told her not to interfere, and if she pokes her nose in again, well, the knight then can't take it anymore, and immediately swings at the young lady, after which she pulls the sword out of her sheath, and then he deftly repels the attack. Everyone is immediately surprised, and the girl's hair begins to change color, after which she claims that he is right, because she is the eldest daughter of Count Cain Cain and the commander of the kingdom's front line, and she is also Evelyn's sister, after which the guy remains silent, and still claims that he was simply asked to do so. He also tells the girl to think about everything, because after the Marquis was attacked, she was at a dead end, Count Cain. His daughter, the Marquise. Someone is trying to remove all those capable of taking command of the army, and it could be someone from the central nobility Count Oberon, or even the crown prince. Perhaps the Empire has started this game. They are all their common enemies, and the guy asks if she thinks so, after which he holds out some kind of sword and asks if she recognizes what it is. The girl then realizes that this thing is a sword that her father trained with. Well, now she hesitates. The brunette claims that this is the sword that the Count wanted to give her when she reached the level of mastery, and he said that at first it would be difficult for her to control it. And whether she wants it or not, he is the only successor to the Count who will teach her his art. And he promises her one thing for sure. That is, as long as she wants it, he will protect her and help her in everything. The girl is then a little surprised and understands that her father told her not to trust anyone, but she thinks about this man. After which she realizes that she must trust only herself and throws the dagger on the floor. While she still tells him to do what he wants, whether she wants it or not. Everyone who wanted to leave her did it. When the prince leaves the room, someone turns to him and says what a stormy dialogue there was. It turns out to be the Marquise, and he claims that he thinks they agree on this since they are both swordsmen. The brunette replies that there is no reason to worry, and she was very puzzled by the news, but she has a strong will. And also the girl must be strong and definitely must be on their side. The Marquis also wonders why the guy didn't tell him more about the Count, and he has a very special relationship with him. If he had told about that story, the girl would have understood everything easily. But the brunette, asking if the guy thinks anything about the one who erased the word trust from his life. Someone's past is important. And now what she needs most is not truth, but sincerity. The Marquise then says, what a pity, and claims that romance will not help their cause. After which the blonde also turns around and whispers in Chopin's ear, asking if she is the real Eveline. The brunette then claims that she is the daughter of Count Cayenne, and he swears his life to him. The blonde-haired boy then smiles and watches his friend walk away. At this time, someone turns to His Highness and states that it is almost dawn, so let him make a decision. The guy then says that it's good and that they are heading to the western garrison right now. All the aristocrats are surprised by this, and one of them says that it is too far, so let him send a message. Another man also says that His Highness should inform them to come with the army to the estate of the Marquis Berthoud, and let him try to talk to Berthaud, and if he resists, then the army. But the man then asks if they think that he has not thought about it, but he wants to personally receive a dinner of loyalty from him and control the troops. At the moment, half of the Western Army is under the command of Count Cayenne, and the other half under the command of Marquis Berthaud. And if he appears and says that we need to save Mrs. Cayenne, who will be able to lead the army and earn the trust of the soldiers, the aristocrat then asks His Highness, what if the lady leaves while he is away? But the man claims that this is unlikely to happen. Berthaud will try to keep her with him by various tricks. At this time, someone knocks on the door of His Highness's office, after which a girl enters the room and claims that the elite royal guard of 500 people is ready. His Highness then rises from his seat and tells everyone to follow him because he will destroy the Marquis and his entire gang who dared to encroach on the princess. The young lady at this time remembers her father and realizes that he was more than just family to her. He was the sword of the Lian kingdom and a hero of the people. As his heir, the girl also decided to follow his example and protect the entire family as well as the kingdom. But now she has lost everything. The girl understands that she tried in every way to avenge her family, but in the end, she faced herself losing important people to her one after another. A little while later, Eveline dresses in uniform, after which the third prince comes up to her from behind and asks if she has made up her mind. The girl claims that she will continue her father's business, and now he will have to help her. The prince then says that this is unexpected. And could it really be that after just one night of reflection, she decided to trust him? Eveline replies that she doesn't believe him and just decided to change her approach. Before that, she lived thinking only about battles, and when troubles with her father and sister began, she became overwhelmed by emotions. The young lady understands that if she continues to act thoughtlessly, the day will come when she will be manipulated. At this point, the brunette asks what their plan is, and the girl replies that as her father's heir, she must take control of the Western Army and find out if the crown prince is really their enemy. The guy then asks why the prince, too, which the girl replies that he is in close proximity to her and that they must immediately deal with him if he is their enemy. And if the prince is involved in all this, then there will be many suspects. So if they start to stir the prince, these lurking shadows will show up right away. The guy claims that it is not surprising, because the girl is the count's daughter after all. The main character smiles at this, and then suggests to begin. The Marquis at this time treats his wounds, but suddenly he hears someone knocking on his room door and asking who is there. The girl then enters the room, and the blonde claims that he thought she was sad and that he would not convince her anytime soon. But he asks if it was really for her fiancé's sake that she decided to take his miserable life. Evelyn claims that she sees him better now that he is in the mood to talk nonsense. Then the young lady sits down on his bed and hands the Marquis some Sansantenay water, and also claims that it acts as a painkiller. A little while later, the main character already, she helps the Marquis change the bandage, and while she does this, the two of them remain silent. Francesco decides to break this silence and claims that Chopin says that she is strong. But the girl replies that, who knows, because to be more precise, she quickly adapts to the situation. The guy claims that this is because just a few days ago they were being careful with each other, and today they are sitting together like this. They will wait until dawn and go to the palace to impeach the crown prince. He must answer for daring to attack the nobility without any reason. The main character claims that this is why she came to him, after which she claims that from now on the Marquis must lie down and be ill, and it is also necessary to spread rumors that he is in very bad condition. The guy then asks what she is talking about. The girl replies that Baron Alan Christine Philip, only these three people should know about this. The Marquis then asks why, to which the young lady replies that from this moment on, she will consider not only the royal family as enemies, but all the nobility, which is why the guy is surprised, and the young lady remembers how His Highness walked arm in arm with other women, and how he left her on a hunt, after which the girl says that she will do it for him, for Chopin, and for herself, and the Marquis must be as quiet as a mouse, because she will figure it out completely. The girl also claims that she will return to the palace and find out everything. The Marquis then asks if she will even find out about the prince's heir, to which the girl replies that it is the man who drowned her in these feelings. And there is Louis. The blonde then wonders, all about the fox lady will be fine. And the girl asks what he is talking about. After all, the princess wants to return to her prince. The guy says that he is not talking about that, but about her condition. After all, doing what you don't want is the hardest thing. The girl then claims that she has lived almost her entire life in a hellish palace, so nothing will change from Togo staying there for a few more days. Only the girl claims that she hopes that when she finds out everything, the guy will not become her enemy. The Marquise is only surprised by this, and a little while later, someone asks if the lady wants to return to the palace. And in such weather too, one of the aristocrats suggests that she wait there for now. But the girl replies that if she stays, they will have problems too. He replies to her interlocutor that this cannot be avoided. However, the situation is not pleasant, and the Marquis's condition leaves much to be desired. And they also said that his condition worsened last night. And then another aristocrat says that at such a moment she should stay with them, and she must also become their support. The girl is silent for a while after this, but claims that she has something to say to the three of them. A little while later, the young lady is already heading in a carriage, and when she arrives at the palace, someone reports that Madame Cayenne has returned. The brunette turns to the young lady and says that the kingdom of Leon is too noisy, to which the girl replies that it is all because of her, and that they said that Marquis Berthaud was a troubled man. And it's not surprising that everyone looks at her with such eyes, because she returned a few days later from his estate. The brunette then claims that he does not see the prince and wonders if he was not supposed to meet the young lady. After which, the girl asks if he is talking about that person and claims that she did not expect such actions from him. At this time, someone else comes up to them and asks why it is so noisy there. The queen wonders if some important person has arrived. The lady with red hair notices that it is Eveline. The main character bows to Her Majesty and claims that the daughter of Count Cayenne greets her. But the woman then says that it is not necessary, and the girl really irritates her, because every time she sees her, she thinks how terribly her father raised her. She also wonders how many times her precious son must suffer because of her. At this time, the lady with red hair takes Eveline by the hands and claims that everyone thought that Marquis Berthaud had kidnapped her during a hunt, and they all became worried. The heir personally went to the Marquise to save her. It's been a few days now, so the prince has probably arrived there. The queen says it's unlikely to be a kidnapping, and most likely, the girl had already managed to get close to this lecher, and despite this, the prince went to save her. The main character at this time tries to control herself and claims that they misunderstood everything. After all, the Marquis was attacked by unknown people, and he was in danger, so she could not pass by and gave him first aid and also took him home. The Queen of such words only smiles and also claims that she heard about the commotion on the hunt, but will not believe it until she sees it herself. And this time, she will not leave this matter just like that. The lady with red hair at this time addresses Her Majesty and claims that everyone can hear them. Eveline wonders why the Crown Prince acted so stupidly, and if he was going to Marquis Berthaud, they should have crossed paths. But did he really go a different way? And the girl understands that even if he has an army with him, it's somewhere around several hundred, and the Marquis has somewhere around 1,000, and a reasonable person would never do such a thing. Well then, the main character wonders if the prince really wants to take control of the Western army under the guise of saving her. She is not sure that her subordinates will agree given their dislike for the royal family, but this is only a guess, and then another method is needed. After which, the young lady cries out to Her Majesty and claims that the heir is in danger because the people of the Marquis Berthaud hate the prince, and she is sure that they will try to harm him, after which the girl screams that she will personally go to the Western army and ask them to help His Highness. So she asks for permission. The girl understands that under the pretext of protecting the prince, she must first gain control of the army. At this time, someone turns to His Majesty and claims that perhaps Duke Oberon and the other signs have learned that he is heading for the garrison of the Western army. Well, the prince says that it makes no difference to him, and he finally had a reason to take control of the Western army. So if he says he's going to save Mrs. Cayenne, no one will dare to object to him. The main character at this time turns to her favor and claims that this evil queen has finally allowed it. But she values her son's life, and she doesn't like that she is in the kingdoms. The third prince at this time tells the girl to wait and says that he has a request for her guard, after which he asks if he could go to the Empire, to which he replies that it is not difficult for him, but after which the prince only gives him a roll of paper in his hands, and when the servant asks what it is, he replies that it is a letter to his unit, that is to the 3rd Imperial Corps. And also his soldiers are waiting for him, and probably already started to worry, so he hopes that he will pass this letter to the deputies. Pan then asks what he has in mind at such a time. Their main character asks, is he really sending the letter just for that reason? The third prince claims that he wouldn't send it just to say hello, and that it's to protect her. The gentleman then turns to the lady, as if asking what he should do, to which the girl replies that he should do what the prince commands, because he is also risking a lot for this, and they must make concessions. After all, now is not the time to nitpick over trifles. A little while later, the girl and the prince are already riding horses, and when they enter one of the mountains, the young lady claims that she has never seen this place before. The guy says that it is too empty and not many people know this place. He also thinks that they have cut the route in half. The girl then says that she sees that the prince of the empire knows about a foreign country better than the locals. The guy replies that when he was very little, he came there to escape the horror that was happening in the royal palace, and he wonders if the count didn't tell the girl. Evelyn looks at him a little surprised, and then says that everything is going well overall, and she hopes that they will arrive today. Well, the prince says that this is not possible, because as soon as they enter the gorge, night will fall, and he thinks that everything will be fine with them. But if suddenly these horses stumble, it will be very bad. And the whole body is wet, so they need to set up camp. Eveline looks at the prince, but still does not object. A little while later, they are already making a fire, and the prince tells the girl to get some sleep. He also asks if she is worried about her guard, but says that he has his letter with him, so the girl does not have to worry about him. At this time, the main character gets up from her seat and claims that she has had a good rest, so let him sleep. After all, she had a good rest, so let him sleep now, and she will see if there is anyone suspicious on the horizon. The prince then claims that it seemed to him that they had become closer, to which the girl replies that she does not think so, and even if they act together, it does not change the fact that he is a man of an enemy country, and she also turned a blind eye to the fact that he corresponds with his soldiers, after which the guy says that since she didn't trust him, he should have just refused. But the girl says that it wouldn't have changed anything, because he was already there, as if he was at home. The guy then sighs and claims that the new emperor is trying to destroy his unit, and also his soldiers like him were descendants of Duranka or Kunta, and they were related to each other as true brothers. His brother had originally planned to remove him from his path, and he was unlikely to let go of those who had sworn allegiance to him. And also now he has nowhere to go, so now he sits next to her to help. The girl then asks if he really decided to help the daughter of the Count of an enemy kingdom in one day, but then she also tells him to forget about it, because in principle she understands his plan, and she doesn't care how he will live his life well. She has her father's Western army, and she is not going to ask for help from those with whom they have been at odds until now. The guy then asks if she thinks that the commanders of the Western army will be on her side. After all, in his eyes, they are only selfish people, and if they were truly loyal to the Count, then putting their lives on the line, they would support her and hand her over to Titus. After which he asks if the girl thinks so, but she only looks away, and also remembers the words of the musketeer that Serena's people swear allegiance to only one person in their entire lives. At this time, someone bursts into the musketeer's room and shouts that the crown prince has arrived, but he only laughs. And he also says that, of course, that's how it should be, and it wasn't for nothing that he trusted and submitted to him. After this, his interlocutor claims that he is sure that the prince wants to take over the Western army, and he is worried about the other commanders. The man then asks how they dare refuse, because the lady is in danger, and this is even for the best. After all, how conveniently this stupid Evelyn fell into the hands of the Marquis, and so the prince had a reason. Therefore, now he can destroy the Marquis and also save Evelyn, and then the Western army itself will submit to him, and all that remains is to destroy the commanders who are loyal to the Count. The man then asks if they are doing the right thing, but the musketeer asks what the difference is, since it is different from other commanders. They were not originally the Count's men. After which the boy asks if there will be any unexpected changes, but the musketeer asks what kind. And the guy says that maybe the Western army will say that it will follow Evelyn, but his interlocutor claims that this will never happen. After all, everyone uses the girl for their own purposes, so she is weak and insignificant, and who would want to follow her? A little while later, the main character is already in the county and asks if he has already left, to which one of the servants claims that yes, so he has. And also 4 days have already passed. The girl then asks if only the commander of the 3rd Battalion is left, to which the man replies that yes, the rest are led by the Crown Prince. The young lady then wonders how they left so quickly. However, the brunette tells the lady that there is no need to be upset. After all, even having fallen behind them, they arrived there very quickly, and it is a large army, so it is unlikely that they managed to go far. After which he suggests hurrying up, and the young lady agrees. However, when they are about to leave, one of the commanders stops them, turning to the lady. The girl then turns around and asks what happened, and the man asks how things are going, since they were told that she was kidnapped by the Marquis. Berto Evelyn says that she thinks there was a misunderstanding, and the Marquis is now on the verge of life. So what kind of kidnapping can we talk about? And if they are not stopped right now, it will be bad. Then the main character gets on her horse and goes further, but suddenly an arrow flies at them. The brunette immediately cuts her in mid-flight, and the main character turns around in shock and asks if he's okay, to which the guy replies that they were attacked. Evelyn wonders who dared to attack the mistress of the Western garrison, but the prince claims that now is not the time to find fault with this, because they are coming, and they need to get off their horses. Evelyn replies that she knows, and then they jump off their horses. Their enemies at this time start shooting arrows, but the girl knows how to cut them, and the prince as well. After which they also see how swordsmen attack them, and the main character is shocked and wonders if this is really the Western army. After which the girl asks why the Knights of the West are attacking her. But at the same moment, where arrows fly into the ear, and the prince screams in shock to her, after which they jump forward. The girl also remembers how Chopin said that, in his eyes, these commanders were only selfish people, and she wonders if he was right. At this time, someone tells the other knights to move away, and the girl in shock asks if this is really the commander, to which he says that he feels sorry in front of the lady. But the girl wonders why he is doing this, and for what purpose. The commander claims that he sees no point in making excuses, and from now on, she should not be there anymore, because that is the only way they will all survive. At this time, the main character turns to the brunette and tells him to return to the Empire, and she will distract them. After all, even if he has the skill level, It will be difficult to fight and defend against arrows at the same time. But the guy only says that she upsets him and wonders if the girl has already given up on something, screaming that this is her battle. After which she claims that, to be honest, she shouldn't have doubted his words, and therefore doesn't want to drag a stranger into these matters. Well, at that very moment, the brunette stands behind her and says that, like father, like daughter. Well, they are both very stubborn, and he, on the contrary, would try his best to stay alive, although his aura is gloomy. But in general, he is a person who gives great promise. The young lady then smiles and says that then they will see what he is like, and also takes his hand in hers. At this time, the other knights begin their attack, but at that very moment, a dagger flies into one of them, and when the main character looks up, she sees that her colleagues are in the trees. At this time, the knights turn to the commander and ask what they should do, and the guy with blue hair jumps down from the tree and then turns to the captain. The girl realizes that it is Leo, after which the boy orders to destroy all the knights and not to fall into eternal sleep. The main character turns to the prince and says that now is the time after which the two of them use their sword techniques. A little while later, the commander is left alone, and the main character puts a sword to his throat, and also says that it is unlikely that the commander of one battalion will attack his master, and she wonders who ordered him to do this. The man then only bites his tongue and claims that the kingdom of Leon will be forever. After this, the prince checks his pulse, and when he turns to the main character, he shakes his head, showing that he has already fallen into eternal sleep. The girl then becomes furious. A little while later, she turns to Leo and asks how he got there, to which the guy replies that he noticed that the commander of the 3rd Battalion was behaving strangely and decided to follow him. And as soon as she left, he began to gather troops, but the main character asks how they could all come, and what about the border? The guy replies that the hell is going on in the country, so how could they stay there? And they are devoted only to the lady. After which, he turns to the others and asks if this is true, to which they nod. And the girl says that overall, they did a great job. And Leo claims that now the captain owes him his life, but the girl only says that then she offers to arrange a special sparring match just for him. Then the girl says that, okay, they won't be needed anymore, so they need to go to the border, and there is somewhere to go. Leo then asks what she's talking about, and the brunette asks her to wait, and says that she needs to think everything over. The girl then asks what exactly, to which the guy replies that the commander overcame her, and in order to hide his patron, he plunged into eternal sleep. After which, he asks if the lady understands what he is getting at, and probably the Western Army no longer belongs to her. Leo tells the captain that if that's really the case, then there's no point in going there alone, and it's like jumping into a fire. But the girl then remembers the Marquis, and claims that if she doesn't go, then Francesco will. At this time, the prince takes the girl by the hand and tells her to think about only one thing now. It's about yourself and your little sister who might be alive. At this time, you are at the Marquise's estate. Someone screams at Christine that there are too many of them and asks if there are ways to get out. The guy also screams that the crown prince is a scoundrel, and they also thought that he would drag the Western Army there. Another one claims that letting Lady Cayenne go was a mistake, and that she may have betrayed them and returned to the prince. But then one man screams at them to shut up and wonders if it matters now, and if he has time to think about it, then he should go out and fight. Alan agrees with him and claims that the Marquise trusts Madame Cayenne, and without a doubt, the crown prince himself started all this. Kristen takes his sword out of its sheath and tells them to grab the Marquise and go to a safe place because she will cover them. At this time, the prince is in the western garrison and claims that a little more, and they will capture them. He also says that all followers, including the Marquise himself, should be captured or put into eternal sleep on the spot. The commanders are silent after this, but then one of them asks if the Marquise really grabbed Mrs. Cayenne, to which the prince asks what he means, and the man replies that their behavior is very strange. After all, they should have tried to agree a long time ago whether they have their mistress as a hostage, but they don't react at all. At this time, someone turns to the musketeer and asks what if the lady is not there, and what will happen then? But the guy replies that it does not matter. Now Eveline is just an excuse, because they will do two things at once, namely destroy the Marquise Berthaud and appropriate the Western Army. Or even if the girl is not there, she is probably sitting somewhere and chilling over a cup of tea. The guy then says that's how it is, and the musketeer turns to His Highness and asserts that it is time, so let him order what he should agree to, after which he screams that they are going straight ahead and that no one can be left alive. Christine screams that they are attacking, and we must stand to the end. But at that very moment, the army stops, and one of the knights screams for the commander to look up, after which they see the main character there, and the prince in shock asks if it is Eveline. He also asks how so, and the girl orders everyone to stop and claims that she was in the palace. But at the first news she came there, and also Eveline Cayenne is completely safe. No one kidnapped her, and she is perfectly fine, so let them stop this useless battle. But the prince will only get angry after that. And also he screams, "What are they waiting for?" Because he has already given the order, after which the army runs forward. Well, and the girl then raises her sword. And she also says that the Western army should hear her words, because as their ruler from the Cayenne family, she gives them the order to stop immediately.